the Helmand Province was like all Taliban. We went up there to do a clearing operation with the 82nd, and we took some contact that day. One of the 82nd guys got shot. And then the 82nd put a bird guys out on the other side of the Humber River. A Chinook was shot down. The report said it was a surface-to-air missile. From what I can see on the ground, it did not look like a surface-to-air missile to me. It looked like it was an RPG. It was one of those things where they just happened to egress exactly where the enemy was, and they shot it because they were low.
Can you describe what happened on that day?
So,
since the Civil War, dogs have stood alongside our military, proving to be indispensable partners. Our military prioritized ensuring proper canine nutrition for optimal performance, recognizing its vital role in mission success. Team Dog embodies that standard, offering science-based, customizable meal plans tailored to your dog's unique needs. Developed by a former Navy SEAL and canine trainer, Team Dog Food ensures the highest quality nutrition for our canine companions. Improve your dog's well-being. Be your dog's hero with Team Dog.
Ladies and gentlemen, as always, it's both an honor and a pleasure to welcome my next guest to the podcast. He was in the Army for 24 years, retired as a sergeant major in Green Beret with the 7th Special Forces Group. He's got 11 combat deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan. He's deployed for almost 11 years total. He's the CEO of Tactical Edge Coaching and Consulting. He coaches high-performance men to become better leaders in all aspects of their life. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Terry Wilson. How we doing?
Good.
I appreciate you taking the time. I know you haven't been out for a long time, and that transition out into going from being totally in the shadows, not even allowed to say anything on social media for the most part, to being interviewed in a public forum can be kind of a dicey traverse, and I appreciate you being forthcoming and coming on to share your story, because it sure sounds fascinating.
Thanks, appreciate it.
What's the last full book that you've read?
What's the last full book? Atomic Habits, I think, was the last one. But that's kind of
Jimmy
a book.
Clear?
Yeah, that's still kind of one of the books you just can continue on going back to. So.
Yeah, for sure.
But
yeah, it's a great book. His Instagram feed is good too, because he's kind of always refreshing. Even some of the things he's already published, we'll expand on them or even add to them or whatever. And the guy's got some great stuff. Anything you wish you were better at?
Man, there's all kinds of things when you start like actually doing some reflecting in that. I would say trying to control my anger, as I've kind of, I guess, in the military, we do a lot of assessing all the time. You're being assessed, you're always assessing someone else, and trying not to judge people. That fine line between assessment and judging, and then reintegrating into the civilian world. You can kind of get pretty frustrated.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm trying to understand.
For sure. I would say my the kind of come to Jesus or light switch moment for me was, and somebody gave me this advice, was just don't have the same expectations of people who aren't in the special operations community that are, just get rid of all of your military expectations and approach whoever you're dealing with just, kind of from a clean slate. And I think ultimately it's kind of the less expectations you have, the less let down you'll be when they're not met, so.
Yeah, it's good advice.
Yeah. If time travel were possible, where and when would you go and why?
Oh man, I don't know. That's a good one. I would probably say, I think I'd probably go down towards probably the Western time. I think that would be pretty interesting,
Wyatt Earp or more of a Jesse James kind of guy?
For me, growing up, I was more the Jesse James kind of guy. Yeah. Now as an adult, I try to, stay, just
a little more even keel.
Yeah, trying to be a little more even keel.
Do you have a favorite quote?
A favorite quote? Not really. There's always I study Stoicism and I read scripture and a lot of Proverbs and that I really enjoy. But I never really had a quote that I really stuck with,
Yeah. EDC wise, I mean, having spent so many years in the military and now being a civilian, do you find yourself carrying pretty much everywhere you go, or?
So I normally carry everywhere I go. I use I carry a Glock 19 usually in my vehicle, and then a Smith & Wesson Airweight usually on me just because of the comfortability.
Yeah.
Like you can wear that like sweatpants,
Prison
shorts.
wallet.
Yeah, exactly. It's not really.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, from an operational standpoint, is there any carryover of stuff that you rocked on active duty that you find yourself kind of implementing in the civilian space?
Yeah, I mean, so we used well when I originally came up in SF, we had Berettas.
Yeah,
and then
which is crazy.
It's insane. But that was like old school. But then they went to Glocks and Glock 19. So I just carried on to that because that's what we was used to shooting.
Accessory wise, do you keep it bone stock, or do you have a bunch of fancy shit on it?
So whenever the firearm that I have with me, I keep it bone stock. I mean, I've got like the Trijicon sights on there, but I don't care anything more crazier than that.
No hollow suns and TLR lights and
no,
none of that stuff. No. Did you have or I guess I would say, what was your favorite thing to do growing up? I know you had a tumultuous childhood, but was there a tradition or a thing that stuck out as super enjoyable?
I mean, our Generation X, so it was kind of one of those things. You went outside like as soon as daybreak or after school, and you came back when the lights were on. So riding bikes and hanging out with your buddies and that, and
it was the hotness.
That was the hotness. You was pretty much outside all day long.
Yeah, for sure. You're originally from St. Louis?
Yeah, originally I was born in St. Louis and then moved around quite a little bit in St. Louis, St. Charles, suburbs there quite a little bit. So
I'd be curious and would love to hear more about kind of the overall synopsis of your childhood. I mean, hearing about trouble that you got into and just kind of all the different things that happened. Can you walk us through kind of the childhood experience and how it went?
Yeah. So my mother and father were married pretty young. So they were like maybe right out of high school, roughly time frame, and they lived in like trailer parks, and not even really a trailer park, almost like I remember, I don't even know what you remember that movie Snatch where they're out like in a camp, like it's almost like a camp, you know what I mean? You're in a campsite like with
fucking gypsies.
Yeah, gypsy pretty much, right? So live like that, and then they got divorced, and she married quite a few. I think she's been married over 5+ times.
Oh wow!
So there was a lot of
high turnover
rate. Yeah, right. So
any issues with a stepdad or two?
Man, so yeah, I mean there was issues with stepdads and like boyfriends and that, but there was nobody there at that point to try to step in as a father figure. They were just more focused on the relationship with my mother, not really with me. So I pretty much just ran kind of free from there. You know what I mean?
Did you spend more time with her than your dad?
I did spend more time until I got about, I would say, 10 years old or so, roughly. Like he came back in the picture. He went away for a while and came back pre-teen time frame, and then lived with him for a little bit back and forth, and then spent some summers with him, and then you know what I mean? So it's kind of back and forth.
What did your parents do work-wise?
So my mother was like in and out of jobs. You know what I mean? Like factory jobs. It's mostly just factory stuff, I think, with her.
Yeah.
And then my father has been a trash man his whole life. So when I was younger, he actually put me on the back of a trash truck.
Really?
Yeah, I was probably about 10, 11 years old.
Yeah. To help or to just hang out?
Well, I mean, he had me taking out the trash. I mean, I dumped the trash.
Yeah.
I mean, and then like this was out in like Colorado, St. Louis area when they lived there, and then they moved out to Colorado. I did it out in Pueblo, Colorado, for some time frame out there too.
Yeah. And then, from a housing standpoint, one of the notes I had was that it was low income housing. Pretty rough areas. Yeah,
low income housing, pretty rough areas, trailer parks, stuff like that. And then had some time frame where we were homeless after the flood of '93 that kind of wiped out that. So we lived.
Really?
Yeah, so we lived from like Salvation Armies, from homeless shelters to that stuff for a few years.
Any, I guess, standout stories or experiences in any of that time frame that molded you or incredible, or like, I guess, exceptionally impacted your life?
Yeah, I mean, I think, without having any parental supervision, I think I kind of fell in what most kids do at that age. Was I think whenever you're in like middle school or high school, you start hitting puberty, and I think whatever you align girls like you're interested in, and that's what you kind of go towards.
Yeah.
So I went towards like the outlaw kind of like bad boy kind of, because I had nobody said what was right, what was wrong, and what was actual masculinity look like.
Yeah.
So I kind of just started.
Went full bore.
Just went full board, you know what I mean?
What does that look like?
Oh, man. So I went to a point where I was, stealing, started out stealing like radios, then
Like out of cars?
out of cars, yeah. Did like, got a little bit bigger than that, started dealing drugs, like that kind of stuff there, too, you know what I mean? So.
Did you have siblings?
So my mother had a daughter by one of her husbands, and she was around there. And then I've got a couple other siblings on my father's side.
Oh, okay.
So one I'm actually really close to. She lives down in Florida now. I went to help her in Colorado, brought her down to Florida.
And was that like a kind of a revolving door, like where sometimes you're with some and sometimes with the other, or were you guys all together a lot?
No, we weren't
Yeah.
together. Yeah, they were.
Man.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it sounds like it was very on the fly, kind of latchkey kid, fly
Yeah.
by the seat of your pants, type of stuff.
Yeah, very chaotic, very latchkey kid. Yeah. I think, I don't know if it was just that time frame, Generation X, obviously part of it was just
No supervision.
no supervision at all. So
Stealing radios, dealing drugs. You did get caught a few times doing some stuff, right? Tell me about that.
So I got caught. We were stealing. We stole a car stereo, and then as we were coming back, we ended up coming back to pick it up. I can't remember exactly the whole situation, and then we got busted there, and then got charged with a felony for that one, and they kind of racked them up there for that.
And you got 3 of them total?
Yeah, I got 3 of them on that. Just
Before
that
you
one.
were 18?
Yeah, right before I was 18, yeah.
Were they all theft?
Yeah, they were all theft. So
I mean, from a procedural standpoint, forgive my naivete on it, but you're boosting stuff out of cars, and then are you pawning it? Are you selling it to other people, or what?
mostly at that point, pawn stores. I can't remember that. We were just selling to other people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just.
And would you make decent money doing that?
Not really. I was a kid. Probably not. I mean, for there at that age, you thought it was a lot,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but.
Any close calls with, I guess not just law enforcement. Obviously, you got caught 3 times. But like people coming out when you're stealing something from them, like anybody pulling a gun on you or anything like that?
No. I've had a gun pulled on me one time more than one, but I mean when I was a teenager, and then we just ran.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
You met your wife in middle school, is that right?
Yeah. We were in middle school together.
Did you guys date all growing up?
So yeah, I think we dated off and on a little bit, and then in high school we got pretty. Obviously, from there we got serious.
Yeah. The big question I would have is having 3 felonies prior to 18. A, what was the catalyst for wanting to join the military, and B, how did you join with that kind of record?
So, I think they do it now. Like back then, it was a juvenile record.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't on, like it was, I don't know if we'd call them expunged, but it doesn't show on when they go in there, it doesn't show on your file. So when I went in, there's nothing there on your record. So,
Really? Wow.
Because now, depending on how you're charged at that point, I was charged as a juvenile.
Okay.
So nothing was on my record.
Did they ask you about it, or?
I don't remember. It's been quite a few years ago. And I can't remember what the recruiter told me to tell them or whatever. So,
well, the infamous drug question. Did you just lie and say, "I've never done it"?
Yeah, I think it's probably. I don't recall something like that.
Was there a catalyst or a decision making process that was?
So yes. So me and my wife. We were probably about 18 years old or so. Between 18 and 20. We got married, we bought a house, and, we had our first kid, and first and second kid. And I was like, I just can't live like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we can't live like this, you know?
What
And
were
at that
you
point
doing?
I started going back to, I was working jobs, but I was still like in the neighborhood, and I was still trying to do things legal, but still having opportunities to do things or not.
Right.
So when bills weren't getting paid, or it was getting struggled, or it was getting difficult, you know, something illegal would come up, and now you got to make a decision. So at that point, I'm like, hey, listen, I just got to get out of get out of this situation.
What were the things that would come up that were illegal that you actually did?
Well, I mean, just like basic, like drugs. Is probably pretty much the easy one. Selling drugs. You know what I mean? Selling drugs is probably the easiest one.
And so this was right before you joined.
Yeah, right before I entered the military.
And you never got caught after 18, I assume.
No. It was all, everything I got caught was like teenage, before 18, 15, 16, 17 years old.
So you were better at it once you turned 18, and
Yeah, obviously at that point, yeah. A lot more tradecraft, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah.
From a decision-making process in terms of, you know, which branch and what you want to do in it, what shaped your Army and Special Operations career?
So at that point, I really didn't have. I went to the recruiter. I don't know, at that point they had like Air Force, Marines, Army, all in like one building. And when I went in, I didn't have any like specific, like I want to go in the Marine Corps or Navy or Army. When I showed up, that was just the one that was available. Army recruiter was there, the other ones weren't. And then I went and started talking to those guys first. So
Was Special Operations something that you considered?
man, I really didn't even understand like the different jobs at the military, like whenever I originally went in. So it wasn't until I got in the military and September 11th happened, I started seeing like SF guys.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, oh shit, that's what I want to do.
Did your dad growing up shape any of the desire to want to join the military in terms of camping, shooting, anything like that?
Yeah. So like whenever when I lived with him, he really got me involved in firearms. So he would have me taking apart, putting back together guns, you know, pistols, rifles, black powder. I'd go hunting with him quite a little bit. So camping, hiking, and that's, I think, what really kind of got me interested in like the firearms, being outside and doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So he was a big influence on that. And then my grandfather was in the Korean War. My other grandfather was in World War II. Some of my aunts served in the military. My uncles, like my father served a little bit. So like,
Big influence.
yeah, it was a big influence.
What was the first job you had in the Army?
So when I first came in, I came in as an MP.
Oh, really?
So yeah, before I went to selection in SF.
How the tables.
Yeah,
turned
exactly.
out.
Yeah. That was before September 11th, before it was in a war. So
Right. So you go through that whole process, get your training. Did you, or how long were you an MP before you went for selection?
So I showed up my unit September 11th of 2000. It was 1 year before the towers hit. And then once September 11th happened, then we went to Qatar, and I was there for, I think it was a 10, 12 months deployment. Came back, went to Qatar again. And then from Qatar, I deployed to Iraq as an MP. And then that's when we were assigned to an SF ODA. And that's when I was like, man, these guys are out, like running and gunning and getting after it. So when I came back from that's when I went to selection. And that was in October 2004 is when I went to selection.
If you contrast your childhood and kind of the tumultuous nature that you existed in with boot camp and your early first years in the military, was there an essence of almost ease of being in the military because of how rough your childhood was? Yeah,
I mean, anytime that this is my personal belief that whenever we do things that are difficult or we live in some kind of chaos, that it builds resilience, whether we like it or not. So, you know, you get out of basic training, you get out of the bus when they get in there, and you have like what do they call it, where they're yelling at you, you go out there, you know, and they're like telling you, get your stuff out of your bags, get back in there. Like people are breaking down from that. And like, I remember myself, I had to quit from laughing because I'm like, this is the first time you've been yelled at or somebody's been in your face. Like it's interesting that people have never dealt with that. So whenever you deal with it, it's not as big of a deal.
Yeah, that's wild. All right, so the first couple of years you do the MP thing, you get exposure to special operations guys you decide to screen. Can you walk us through that first, the screening and selection, and then kind of the first intro into special operations yourself?
Yeah, so I went to selection in October of 2004, and I remember preparing for selection. At that point, like, there's no social media, there was nothing online, so like anything you had to do, you read a book to prepare to go to any of these schools.
Did you read any books?
Yep. So I read. You remember go to like the commissary or like the PX, and you get like how to pass selection, or how to pass this school, or what to expect. So I read those. The SF recruiter had a PT regiment. It was like, hey, do this PT regiment. So I did that, read those, and then kind of had an idea as far as like physically fit you needed to be. And then when I went there, not that it wasn't difficult. It just, I put it in such a pedestal that it was impossible to pass. Whenever I went there, it wasn't as difficult as what I thought.
Really?
Yeah.
So you kind of almost psyched yourself out, but up.
Yeah, I psyched myself out, but up. Like, this was something that was impossible to do, So now there were things where obviously it was tough. You're like knowing this, they force if you go to these schools and you don't think about quitting at some point, I'm impressed, because it's like every day there's days where you're like, I'll quit tomorrow, I'll quit later. Yeah. And you keep on telling yourself that until it's over and you continue on. So
what was the hardest part of Green Beret selection for you?
For me, log PT was a smoker. And I will say the land nav, I did very well on land nav on like the preparation for it. And then they have it where you do like 5 points. And my first point on my first day, I boloed. So I only found like 1 or 2 points. And then, so I had to find all 5 out of 5 the next 2 days. So the next day I smoked it, hit 5 out of 5. The following day, like I hit 4 out of 5. And my last point, like I only had like 60 minutes left to get to that point. And it should have been a small distance, but it was like 12 clicks away in Camp McCall. Like the guys that run that's a long distance. And then, so I ran to this point, like I dumped all my water to get there. And then once I got there, I was trying to do like intersection resection to find where it was at. I get there, I don't see my point. It's like down to minutes. I'm like feeling sorry for myself. I'm like, holy shit. So I go back and do it again. And then now I'm down to like not very much time. And then I hear something like corner of my eye, and I hear them like the truck shutting in the back of the bed. And I run over there to the instructor, and I like barely made it. Wow. Yeah. So like that was like one of my blade running time frames there. Yeah. So. Do
you remember how many guys you started with versus how many you finished?
So in selection, now obviously I was a student here. So it was high 200s, I think. And I think we ended with less than 100. I don't know how many. I remember it was weeded out quite a little bit. But a big portion of that was guys would quit as soon, like it would rain and people quit.
Wow.
You know what I mean? You're like, so some of the stuff you're just kind of surprised where people are quitting on things that aren't that difficult.
Right.
So it weeds out a lot, like right from the beginning. So,
I mean, you hear a lot about how, it's the mental aspect of, really any special operations selection criteria or course. Was there something that for you found the most mentally challenging within SF selection?
For me personally, I don't think so. I mean, there's mental challenges, but it's something, for me, it was like, they're going to push you to quit. They want to make it so difficult. Like you're going to be smoked. Like you're going to feel like you have nothing left to give. You're going to see that it's easier to go over here. To me, I think you have to want the end result more than the pain that you're suffering. And I wanted the end result more than the pain that I was suffering. So I was just kind of focusing on that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, to me, it's almost, I would say kind of a disassociation in a way, right? I mean, you're just kind of putting your mind somewhere else and just getting through it. Is that kind of
Yeah, of course. Like there's going to be, I remember times, you're walking through the wood line and you're no sleep, tired, hungry, and you're falling asleep as you're walking.
Yeah.
So you just like, you're thinking about something else than where you're at to try to get past it, get through it. So.
Yeah. All right, so you make it through that. Where was your first duty station? Was it at 7th Group?
Yeah, 7th Group, Fort Bragg. Yeah,
and what was it like checking in there?
So when I checked in there, they didn't have me assigned to any battalion yet, so I didn't really know much about the battalions. And so I asked them, hey, what battalion was deploying? And then I went to, they're like, all right, your lucky day, you get to go to 1st Battalion. So I went over there, a lot of senior guys at that time. And I want to say I was probably mid-20s, I think, when I got in SF, 26 years old, roughly. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of senior guys there. They had been on some deployments and that. And
yeah.
So
you jumped right in.
Yeah, I jumped right in. So as soon as I got there, within a couple months, I was in Afghanistan.
Wow. That's a bit of a thrown to the lion's den, no?
Yeah, it was. And our ODA was like a sink or swim ODA too. So they were like, if you didn't put out, like, you were gone. So yeah.
Can you tell me more about that? Excuse me.
Yeah. So I got there, and then we went to. This was my initial deployment. Went to the Helmand Province Fire Base Robinson. So did like 10 months out of the Helmand Province. So.
From an operational tempo standpoint, was it busy work?
Yes, yeah. There, when we got to fire, well, first we ended up going to, what did we go to? Oh man, I can't think of that. We went to another fire base first. It'll come to me. Mahalik. Went to Mahalik first, and then we were there for a couple of weeks, and then we were doing a clearing operation in the Helmand Province. And then we started that clearing operation, cleared all the way through the Helmand Province, and then never went back to Mahalik.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we stayed there. We lived out of gun trucks for quite a few months before we got Connexes. Gun trucks, lived out of gun trucks, and then lived out of like GP mediums.
Yeah.
So that operational, that trip, we were out doing operations between 3 to 7 days. We'd do a refit and then go back out 3 to 7 days approximately, do a refit and then come back. So
were you guys, I guess, troops in contact from a tick standpoint? Like, were you guys getting it?
Yeah. So that deployment, we were in the Helmand Province, and then we were in troops in contact every day.
Really?
Yeah. So it was very, very kinetic operation. So
were they all pretty similar in terms of DAs or raids or?
So at that point, it was pretty much a patrol to contact, really. That much, yeah. So we were in gun trucks. So you would, the Helmand Province was like all Taliban. So you would, when we initially cleared through, with a whole element. I want to say the 82nd was with us when we cleared that. We initially cleared through, but once the clearance went through, then we were probing the green zone. So it's pretty much just taking high ground, and then women and children would leave the village, and then it would be game on. Then they would start shooting at you, and then you'd be in troops of contact all day.
Would you guys go on the offensive? Like, would you sweep through and try to clear it out, or was it more?
So some operations, we would do that. It just depended on the operation and what we're actually doing for that trip specifically. But we didn't have like the assets, and you'd have one ODA, so you have 3 gun trucks. Logistically, it's almost impossible to clear during that time, because we didn't have like the commandos and that, or weren't really that, like we had like ASG. Yeah. So, we may have a dozen guys, 2 dozen guys, Afghans at that point, that are not really that useful at all, right? And then if we try to clear too much, like we'd get destroyed.
Yeah.
So it was just pretty much sitting back, calling in CAS, direct fire, 50 cals, and Mark 19s, that stuff. Yeah.
Did you do 9 SF deployments?
So I did. I'm trying to think. I did about 11 years. A lot of them, 11 years deployed, but a lot of it was some of that was TDY, schools, that stuff also. I did Helmand Province. I did 10 month. I think I did 2 10-month trips there, and then I did 2 more trips to Afghanistan. 1 to Iraq, and then 2 to Central America.
Oh, okay.
I think so.
Going back to that first Afghanistan deployment, and really, you know, if you kind of group all of your Afghan deployments together, were they all pretty similar in terms of what you were doing? And kind of before you even go, almost like the con ops, or the concept of operations of this is where we're going, this is what we're trying to accomplish, here are the types of things we're going to be doing, or was it very ambiguous?
So I will say,
all right, so I want to talk about something I didn't think I'd ever frankly care about, and that's taking care of your skin. I'm not a guy with a routine, never have been, but when you're outside a lot dealing with the sun, the wind, the cold, your skin can really take a beating. And at some point, you start noticing it. Dryness, irritation, just looking worn down. Particle sent me their face cream to try, and I have to tell you, what sold me is how simple it is. It's one product. 30 seconds after you shower or shave. It's not greasy. There's no overpowering smell. It just works. There's no 10-step routine, no nonsense. If you want to take care of your skin without making it complicated, this is it. Go to particleformen.co/micdrop and use code micdrop to get 20% off. Again, that's particleformen.co/micdrop, code micdrop, all caps, all one word. It's simple, it's no nonsense, takes a few seconds, and you're good to go.
the initial trips, so the first trip that I went on, I was a cherry. So knowing why we're doing anything was really not in my purview, I guess. Like we were pretty much just patrol the contact, you know. How many bad guys can you stack on that trip? That was pretty much the
Did you guys do a lot of that?
Yeah, we did a lot. Yeah. The team was solid. They were squared away.
Yeah.
I was saying, so we were there for 10 months. We were troops in contact almost every day. So now obviously anybody that's been deployed or knows, like, you know, you had a count of how many enemy KIA you had during that time frame, but being anybody that's been in the Helmand Province or that there with that many personnel, you're not really able to do a good BDA there, right? So a lot of that's coming from intel and kind of what you see or whatever. So so like those numbers are as good as they possibly can. Yeah. But it was in the hundreds.
Wow.
Yeah. So that initial trip, but it was mainly just troops in contact, movement to contact. That whole trip.
Did you guys take any casualties?
So our sister ODA, we were there, took casualties. Our ODA during that trip didn't take any. We took casualties from our Terps did, but luckily we didn't take any casualties that trip. Our second trip we went to, we lost our team sergeant. We went back to the exact same fire base.
Your sister ODA on that first deployment, casualties in terms of being wounded, or did you guys lose some?
No, we lost guys. Yeah.
How many did you guys lose?
So, man, that trip was rough. So the one sister ODA that was with us lost Tim Paget, and that was in up towards Kajaki Sofla, I think. Some of these kind of blend in,
right?
You know, so they lost our 18 Delta. That was his first trip that he was in. We came into the unit around the same time.
Do you know what happened?
What's that?
What happened?
For that one, I want to say he got hit with the PKM. We end up going up there and got troops in contact, and then the team was engaged by like their Dishka. It's kind of like their 50 cal, and then PKM and a PKM down. That was before like we had the chicken plates like in on the GMVs.
Right.
So like a lot of these guys were at that point didn't even have like some of the guys didn't have the front chicken plates or the side. So after that incident, they were like, hey, y'all have to have chicken plates.
Yeah. For the listener, can you describe the chicken plate?
Yeah, chicken plate is just like I don't want to say up armor. Yeah, up armor that like, so if you're sitting in a gun truck and you have your heavy machine gun in front of you, there is like a piece of metal there that kind of protects you from being engaged with. Yeah. Then on the sides, they had metal that kind of went up that kind of protected you while you're in the turret.
Do you know why they call them chicken plates?
Man, because you're getting as small as possible. Somebody's shooting at you.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if it was like you're a chicken if you ask for them.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what the thought process was. I don't even know. There's so many military terminologies that we just say and never ask, never question.
Never even think about
why it's called that, Yeah.
So it sounds like that was a pretty successful deployment. And so you did another one not long after that, and kind of a similar one.
Yeah, we came back from that trip. I went to SODIC. That's a special operation. It's a sniper course for SF. And then we went to PMT, and then we were back again. So I want to say we were back home 6 to 10 months, and then we redeployed.
And you're still married at this time?
Yeah, still married.
Are you still with that same woman?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, that's impressive, man.
Yeah, I know. It's
that's like unheard of.
It's very unheard of.
I mean, to be dating somebody from junior high to go through a 20-plus year military career, I don't think I've ever heard that before.
Yeah, it's I would say probably when you talk about things that happen in a marriage that causes people to get divorced, I think we probably checked the block on most of them.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And just
but managed to pull through.
Yeah, managed to pull through. So.
How was she handling it at that point, kind of those early first few years?
I don't know that she kind of knew everything. We had this conversation later on. Like she didn't know as far as like how kinetic or like what was actually happening. Probably until I retired and I actually started doing a couple of podcasts and kind of talked about it a little bit. Like I don't think she really knew and understood
what you guys actually did.
How kinetic and that was. And
was that an intentionality on your part to not make her worry, or?
Yeah, I think it's pretty intentional. For there you keep things at work and things at home. And I think as a man, I'm not trying to put more stresses on my wife.
Right.
That she's already got to deal with intentionally.
Yeah.
So. Did
you guys have kids at that point?
Yep. Yeah. So I want to say that trip we had 3 children at that point.
Wow. How many do you have now?
4.
4.
Yeah.
All right. So you're home, you go to sniper course, you go back to Helmand Province, the same place basically.
Yeah.
This time similarly kinetic, but now your actual ODA took losses.
Yeah, it was just as kinetic. It was a little bit different. We did at that trip we did some clearing operations. We did a few HVTs. We did a couple in that first trip too, but it was pretty similar, I would say.
Yeah.
We did some combined operations with other ODAs and that there too, but we lost our team sergeant at that. Almost just not too far where we lost Tim Paget.
Oh wow!
So we lost Mitch Young.
Can you describe what happened on that day?
So it was a combination. So we went up there to do a clearing operation with the 82nd, and I don't want to try to give all the details on this one because I don't want to. I'll give a portion of it. We cleared the Helmand Province. This was like north of Kajaki Sofla, and the 82nd. We took some contact that day. One of the 82nd guys got shot, and then the 82nd put a bird guys out on the other side of the Helmand River. The C-130 was shot down.
Oh shit!
Yeah, so the C-130 was shot down.
With what?
So this is interesting. So the report says it was a surface-to-air missile, and that was with the guy who sold the stuff to WikiLeaks.
Julian Assange.
No, it was the Manning. It was the military guy.
Oh yeah.
That went to Russia or whatever.
Yeah.
So he's the one that sold that stuff or whatever. And the report said it was a surface-to-air missile. From what I can see on the ground, it did not look like a surface-to-air missile to me. It looked like it was an RPG. It was one of those things where that they just happened to egress exactly where the enemy was, and they shot it because they were low. They had a surface. They weren't very high off the ground at that point.
Do you know why they were that low? I mean, was it right after takeoff?
So it looks like they were doing a map of the Earth. You know what I mean, where they go pretty low, so where they can't be seen. And I think they just went over. It was just one of those things. They just went over exactly where that place is. There's a little bit more detail there at that, but I don't want to. It's like one of those things. I don't want to push blame on somebody and something, especially when people have lost people. You know what I mean? So
no, that's tough. I mean, I think if you want to call it interest or intrigue, I guess, is just hearing about a fixed wing aircraft getting shot down in Afghanistan is almost unheard of.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of rotary wing, but so yeah, I mean, to hear a C-130 got shot down was like, I
Yeah.
don't think I've ever
Not
heard
a
of
C-130, a Chinook. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I said
okay.
C-130. Sorry.
Well, that makes
Makes
it
it totally different. Yeah, sorry.
No problem.
There's a
But,
Chinook. Yeah, so they were putting the guys on the other side of the aircraft or other side of the river. They get shot
Okay.
down.
Yeah.
And then it was probably about a couple hundred meters from our location.
Wow. And so that's when you lost your.
So we went over there and recovered those guys from the crash site. And then we were in troops in contact all night. We came back, and then we went back again. Right, it was kind of one of those things. It was like, okay, hey, we're gonna get, we'll go back again, right? And when we went back again, like within a couple of days, we ended up losing Mitch.
What happened on that?
IED.
Oh, really?
Yeah, IED.
Was anybody else injured?
Yeah, we had the gunner was injured. I don't remember if it was Mark 19 or 50 cal, hit his chin, kind of ripped off his chin, and then some other guys in there took some shrapnel inside.
Yeah. Do you know if it was a command detonated or a pressure plate?
I think it was a pressure plate.
Yeah.
If I can remember correctly.
Where were you guys driving when that happened?
So at that point, we were in a mix of RGs and GMVs. So the RGs were the big up armored, like tank looking things, and then the GMVs were the like the regular GMVs, you know.
Yeah,
so they were in a GMV.
Yeah.
So
how did that impact you guys in terms of moving forward and how you dealt with it?
Oh man, it was rough because we went back and we did a memorial for Mitch in Kandahar, and then every team handles things differently, you know. But up to that time, you really don't understand how it'll affect your ODA until it happens to you, because you see other teams lose guys. You know, some teams will use that loss and then get after it. Some teams will take that loss and then, I wouldn't say fold, but they have a very hard time recovering from it.
How did you guys deal with
The
it?
guys, I would say they used it for more reason to go out there and get after it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Did you
So
notice an uptick in op tempo after that?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like we
So it was payback time, basically.
it was payback time, and it's kind of one of those things that I think it's, you know, agree with it or not, is, you know, same way if you jump out of a helicopter, if your chute doesn't open, you got to pull your reserve, you go back up there and do it again.
Yeah.
You don't want to have that fear, like staying and reminiscing in guys, you know, and not go out there and conduct combat operations because of a loss, you know.
The get back on the horse mentality.
You have to get back on the horse. Yeah.
For you personally, did you struggle with that, or was it very obvious or clear for you what you wanted and needed to do?
So whether it was right or wrong, I had this, I told myself, like kind of try to ingrain myself like that warrior mentality that this is a job that we're out here to do. And I didn't want anybody, if something happened to me, I didn't want anybody to not continue doing what they're doing, you know. Obviously there's taking care of the family and that there also, but for me, I think I did pretty okay with it. I like to say, you know. I don't think it was till like you retire where you start kind of, once you retire, I think you reminisce a little bit more on some decisions you might have made.
Do you find yourself doing that now, like kind of unpacking?
Not as much now, but, you know, I use a lot of violence of action, so sometimes you think, well, did I need to do that? You know what I mean? Like, I got after it.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I disagree with it, you know, but it was combat. It was one of those things that you had to do to stay alive, you know. But
within those two first long Afghanistan deployments, is there a single mission that stands out from your memory that went the most exceptionally well for you guys?
Let's see. Those two trips. Man, some of them blend into so well.
I mean, you could broaden it to the entire Afghanistan experience, I guess, because there were two more deployments, 4 total, right?
Yeah, I had 4 trips total.
Were the second two kinetic and similar, or were they totally different?
So the next one was kinetic also, not as much though. We were doing at that point we had like the Commandos, so we were doing majority more halves.
Yeah.
So we're flying in, hitting, doing a raid, and then flying out. So like you know how that goes. You may hit 10 locations and maybe get troops in contact once, or you know what I mean. There, I remember we were only in troops in contact maybe a half a dozen times out of like a 6-month deployment, where those first 2 deployments, we were troops in contact every day. So if we went out for 7 days, we were fighting 7 days every day. And it was, you would get up early in the morning, right? Stand to, just like, you know, you trained to do. And then, you know, once it started getting light, then it'd be game on, it'd be troops in contact. Then they would have like a little lull in the firefight. And then, you know, where they went and prayed, ate, and then it would pick back up again until about dusk, and then it would calm down. And then during the night, we would, you know, C-130 gunships, you know, on the enemy all night long, and then, you know, next morning do it again.
Getting after it. I guess from all of your time in Afghanistan, is there a single operation that stands out as being like almost out of a movie kind of textbook?
In uncertain times, I pay attention to what the smart money is actually doing, not what they're saying publicly. And right now, central banks around the world are quietly selling U.S. treasuries and buying gold at a pace we have not seen in modern history. One major U.S. bank is now telling clients to put 20% of their portfolio in gold, replacing half of their bonds. When the biggest institutions in the world are making that kind of move, it's worth asking why. America's Gold Company is my trusted partner, and they sent me their free 2026 Gold Guide to review, and I learned something that genuinely surprised me. You can move a portion of your existing IRA or 401k into physical gold that's held under your name, in your control, with no institution standing between you and your asset. And you can do it without triggering taxes or penalties. That's the kind of move that makes sense when you're looking at what's happening in the world right now. So head to claimmygoldguide.com/micdrop to claim your free 2026 Gold Guide from America's Gold Company that helps you show exactly how you could move a portion of your IRA or 401k into physical gold without triggering taxes or penalties. Plus, there's up to $10,000 in free silver for qualified purchases. That's claimmygoldguide.com/micdrop. Individual results may vary. Consult with your financial professional before making an investment decision.
Man, I don't know. Not that I can really think of. Some of them like blend in a lot together. Like we did a prison raid, and I was a team sergeant when we did a prison raid. I think that one went pretty successful. It wasn't as it sounds cool because we did a prison raid.
Yeah.
You know, we got people, but it wasn't like we wasn't in heavy troops in contact. You know what I mean? So do
you remember what the prison name was?
I don't remember exactly because it was just, this was in Afghanistan, so it wasn't like a prison like you'd look at in like a movie.
Right.
It was just a bunch of Taliban holding a bunch of people hostage, you know, inside of a big complex there.
Do you remember? Do you know who the people were that were prisoners?
I don't remember exactly. Like,
was it just crazy like conditions of squalor, like just gnarly?
Yeah. I mean, it was just like, it was Afghanistan, so it's just like.
I'm just curious, you know, like a makeshift Afghan prison. Like, if you were to describe it, to the viewer or listener, to let them feel like they're walking through it.
So I would say, so I mean, you go to these huts in Afghanistan, and the animals live in exact like same locations, maybe one room over than what people live in. Like, so when you go in these huts, you'll go in there, you'll start clearing, and you could have cows, you can have like animals in one room, and then the baby's room and somebody else sleeping right next to them. So in there, like, you have all these people just together in one area. You know what I mean? It just stinks, and it's just nasty, and then feces everywhere, and the conditions are not.
Do you recall what the gist of the mission was for why you were breaking that particular group out?
So I don't really remember exactly I'm trying to think what the gist of the mission is for that one. I don't really.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I don't
Yeah,
recall.
no, it's all good.
Yeah, no.
So the third deployment was much more with the Afghan Commandos.
Yeah, we did after Afghan Commandos in that one, and we're doing halves. Like,
Did they fuck up at all?
oh man, the Afghan Commandos, the Afghans were we did one. I'll tell you one. This mission was actually pretty hilarious. We were doing I think this was the first mission, if I remember correctly, because I think Pat Nelson was the team leader during this one, and we were hitting an IED facilitator compound. So we go through there. I'm the senior 18 Bravo on the mission. So I have all of the Afghans lined up. The 18 Charlie comes up. He places the door charge on the compound. The door charge goes off. The Afghans run. They jump in the ditch or whatever. So I'm grabbing Afghans and I'm throwing them inside the compound. I'm trying to get them in there. And I'm the first American come through. And the Afghans just open up fire. They're getting after it. And all you hear is the guns going off and then a huge explosion goes off, right? It goes up through the hut, through outside the hut. There's a huge fireball. So I'm getting ready to turn into the compound, and I'm thinking I'm gonna catch a round as soon as I go in the compound. So we go through the compound, start clearing, do a back clear, and as we're doing the back clear, we're like, what happened at the beginning of the compound when we first came in? Well, there was about 3 or 4 guys, Afghans. They were doing a Haji squat, and they were cooking over one of those propane things where they normally do over there. And behind them was a glass. So when the Afghans came in, they got freaked out by the glass. They seen the reflection in the glass and just started opening up fire, and then hit the propane tank. The propane tank blew up.
Damn.
Yeah. That trip there too, we had one. I was standing right next to one Afghan, and he shot himself right next to me. Shot himself in the foot, took his toe off, and he was right next to me.
Did the propane blast, did that take out any of your Afghan guys?
No.
Dude, that's dicey.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah. And then the fourth Afghan deployment, what was that about?
So the fourth Afghan deployment, we did, I had half the team in Herat and then half the team in Kandahar. And then we had commandos in Herat, and then we had the Kitehas in Kandahar.
Okay.
So the Kitehas is the Afghans, tier 1, they're CAG or Dev group or whatever. So
What did you think of them?
actually I was pretty impressed,
Yeah.
as far as because they just focused on, after a while they were just sometimes it was hard to get them to do rehearsals, but once you get them out there and got them to do rehearsals, they, as far as Afghans, they were pretty shit hot.
Really?
Yeah, they were, and this was 2018, maybe 2018 timeframe. So obviously these guys have been training for some time. So,
Yeah.
but they did the rehearsals, knew what they needed to do. So, so they were pretty good. I was impressed with them.
Do you know how many of those guys there are or were?
Man, I don't know how many that they had.
How many were in the unit that you were with?
Let's see how many were in that unit at that time. Not a whole lot.
Less than 20?
Yeah, I would say probably.
Wow.
But they rotated, so they were stationed out of Kabul, so we would get a platoon of them, and they'd rotate out. So I don't remember how many was in Kabul.
Yeah.
So
that was the fourth trip, right?
Yeah, it was a fourth trip. I want to say it was my fourth trip.
Did you keep in touch with any of the Afghans that you worked with from the time you left there until the withdrawal, and have any idea what happened to any of them?
Not really. There was one guy that some of the guys on my team that were connected with that I seen. We did the SF Association had us out to do a talk with the ODA, and he came out there. But he actually got brought back to the States.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he ended up getting his citizenship and going to come back to the States.
Cool. I guess fast forwarding, and before we get into your Iraq and Central America deployments, how did the withdrawal under the Biden administration settle or set with you? Was it
So there's a lot of backstory there, but I was a company sergeant major at the time whenever the withdrawal happened, and we were scheduled to go back there and replace the team that was in Afghanistan. Our company was. And once the withdrawal happened, I went to the sergeant major's, the command sergeant major's desk, like my boss, right after that, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm out. So I pretty much put in my paperwork to retire the day after that shit show happened.
I assume because of that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, that was a big portion of it.
Can you kind of walk us through your mentality as it was transpiring?
So this is what my thought process was on it is you try to think that these guys that are in some of these positions of leadership, that they actually know what they're doing and they know. And that just solidified that most of these people up there don't know their ass in the hole of the ground.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's sad that I could have probably taken some 15-year-old kids playing Call of Duty and they would have had a better extraction plan than what, you know what I mean, than what they did, you know? So, you know, a lot of it was just common sense. Like, why would they withdraw all at one time like that? Like, it makes zero sense whatsoever. Like, tactically, logistically, like everything. So, is
it a fair assessment to say that everybody that you were working with at the time felt the same way?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty fair assessment. I mean, guys were upset, you know, because there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears put into that.
Yeah.
You know, and then, I mean, war is what it is. It's war. Like, sometimes you never know what is going to happen generations after, you know, we get in conflict, you know. But at the same token, to see something like that happen in that broad scale where it was like done so unprofessionally and with zero tactical competency at all. And then, you know, and then to not see people be held accountable for it. Like, these generals have zero accountability. You know, it's a slap in the face for guys that, you know, make mistakes and they're held accountable for it.
Yeah, I mean, you lose a piece of night vision or a weapon, you know, and you're strung up. You know, these guys botch an entire withdrawal, getting hundreds, or, I mean, if you count a lot of the Afghans that were left to dry and abandoned there, you're talking hundreds of thousands of people. You know,
oh, yeah.
And no consequence whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Were any of the other guys in your unit, did any of them also drop their papers right when
you know what? I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, because a lot of those guys, I mean, I was at the point where I was at 20-some plus years, so it wasn't very...
Yeah, just a convenient time, I guess.
Yeah, it was just, for me, it was just like, there's nothing else left for me. I had other things going through, so...
All right, so moving on, or I guess moving back, I wanted to kind of separate it almost into chapters: Afghanistan, Iraq, Central America.
Yep.
The two deployments to Iraq, around what time frame was that?
So I went to Qatar. So I went to Qatar originally. That was like right after September 11th happened, when we went into Afghanistan. And at that point, like, I was just guarding the gate. I was an MP, like, not really doing much of anything. I think it was almost a year. One of that was like a year deployment. There, it was a pretty long one.
The MP.
What's that?
As an MP.
As an MP,
okay.
Yeah.
I guess did you do an Iraq SF deployment?
No, it was I was an MP whenever I went to when we went to Iraq. Yep.
Oh, I gotcha. The Central America stuff, was that counter-narcotic type?
So Central America, I did one as an MP, and then I did one as SF.
Yeah. Was the MP one similar, just guarding?
It was it's pretty similar. Like, there was some counter-narcotic stuff there, but a lot of that there as MP, you're just pretty much just guarding the gate, guarding the base, man. That was pretty much it, man.
Yeah.
So
for the deployment, from an SF standpoint, what was the big mish going down there?
So at that one there was, I mean, there's counter-narcotic, and there was also, it was just like it was a FID mission also.
Yeah.
So down there, pretty much that was.
Can you say what country you went to, or?
Yeah. So at that point, I was in Honduras, and the ODAs were in different countries down there.
Okay.
So they were separated over there. So, but even then, for my majority of my trips would have been all Afghanistan. Like, I deployed from there. Yeah. That trip in Honduras, I really didn't even stay there that long because I was leaving to go to the Sergeant Major Academy. Yeah. From there, so anything,
I guess, story or experience-wise from the Honduras trip worth mentioning?
So I would say, I'll give you some kind of experience-wise there, I guess.
You know, it's funny how sleep changes as you get older. In your 20s, you can run on 4 or 5 hours and power through. Coffee, adrenaline, sheer stubbornness. That just doesn't work anymore. Somewhere in your 30s, bad sleep starts costing you. the brain fog, the shorter fuse, sluggish workouts, that feeling that you're just not fully on. And most of us keep grinding through it instead of actually fixing it. My problem was never falling asleep, it was staying asleep. Once I was up, and I'd spend the whole next day paying for it. That's what brought me to Beam's Dream Powder. I wasn't looking to get knocked out, I just wanted real restorative sleep without that groggy, drugged feeling the next morning. Beam sent me this to try and give my honest take, and this is genuinely what changed things for me. Dream is made with a powerful blend of all natural ingredients: reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin. The chocolate peanut butter flavor is absolutely delicious. It's like hot cocoa before bed. And Beam has now improved over 30 million nights of sleep across this country. Sharper, calmer, more focused. That's what consistent quality sleep actually does for you. Go to shopbeam.com/micdrop and use the code MicDrop and take advantage of my exclusive offer for up to 40% off Beam's Dream Powder. Seriously, think about it. How much would you pay for a truly great night of sleep? With my discount MicDrop, go to shopbeam.com/MicDrop today.
There, I was just in an administrative role. The biggest thing that gets guys in trouble is not having command and control of their guys. And I hate to say it, everybody says a soldier is a soldier and a Marine's a Marine, Navy's Navy. But when they originally got there, they were giving support kids the same amount of responsibility and kind of like leeway that they were a lot of SF guys. And the support guys were, I think one guy ended up killing somebody within right after I left there, because when I got there, I was like, hey, listen, y'all are not leaving to go. Like, if you're leaving the base with a vehicle, I want to know, where you're going, what you're doing, or whatever.
Yeah.
And when we first got there, I wouldn't let them leave the base.
Wow.
That's the guy.
Is that bad? I mean,
what's that?
What were they, just partying?
Because just going out there partying, drinking, and then not having a driver, and they ended up killing somebody.
Man.
Yeah. That was after I had left.
Yeah.
Wow. Because I pretty much had to rein. I was trying to rein them in.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
Overall, from a career standpoint, the trips, the 4 deployments to Afghanistan, that obviously was the meat and potatoes of your operational experience.
Yeah.
But from I guess the rest of your career standpoint, what were the other kind of boxes that you checked or schools that you went to that were kind of worth mentioning?
So I went to sniper school, which I really enjoyed. Sniper school was really was very professional. You had to have the technical and tactical experience where you got there. At that point, you had to shoot in, so you had to know how to at least hit the target, have group good before you went there, and then from there they kind of dialed you in as far as calling dope and calling, reading winds and that. So that was really enjoyable for me. I went to, majority of the stuff was all combat focused. I went to MLOC.
What is that?
MLOC, that is your mortar leaders course.
Oh, okay.
Right, calling them mortars, call for fire, that kind of stuff there too, that was a regular Army school, but it helped a lot when you're downrange, giving you the confidence when you're calling in missions, right? That's the last thing you want to do is be calling in a fire mission and not have that confidence of okay, I know I'm going to hit my target. I know these guys are good, So that's that was those two I think were pretty good.
Yeah.
Then you have within the Q course itself, I think SEER school was telling, to see how guys interacted and how they broke, during SEER school.
Yeah.
was interesting. Just me as a student seeing how
other people reacted.
How the people reacted to hard times and not eating and losing their mind. And
was it all SF guys in your crew? Or?
So it was majority SF guys, but they do have pilots that go to SEER school.
Yeah. Same with the Navy. It's about a 50-50 split, honestly, because there's so many pilots. But were any of your teammates' reputations tarnished in your mind after seeing them in SEER school?
No, I try not to. I didn't see anything tarnished. I looked at it as a whole group, just like people. You could tell people. You could tell the guys that have maybe had been through some hardships before
Right.
they went to SEER school, and then versus the people that were very
The first time getting the shit slapped
first
out
time
of
getting the shit kicked out of them,
Yeah.
or like not being able to eat, and kind of how they reacted to that. You know,
Yeah. Meanwhile,
So-
you're like, this is a regular fucking
exactly,
week
like
in
this
the
is
trailer
that,
park,
that
right?
big of a deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I am curious, sniper school wise, did you use any of your legit sniper training in Afghanistan? Were you doing any Overwatch stuff? Or?
So yes, I did some we did some like stay behind missions, to where like you would either it would be dismounted or mounted, and you'd go through an area and then just drop off a guy. So the enemy would see you going through, you just didn't know you were leaving a guy there. Right. So we did some Overwatch and that there too. But it was pretty limited. You know what I mean? You just didn't have as good of effects in Afghanistan than we were out going out and doing like react to contact pretty much,
Yeah. It's interesting. A lot of guys, irrespective of service, have been through a lot of qualifications, whether it's sniper or breacher or, pick any of them. And some of them use a ton of that, and some use almost none of it.
Yeah.
I'm curious if going through sniper, because it was between the first and the second deployment, right?
Yes. Yep.
Did that change for you, I guess, like for normal gunfights, the normal troops in contact, getting into them prior to going to sniper school versus going after, even if it's not a traditional sniper mission? Did you find that augmented or changed the way that you conducted yourself in a gunfight at all?
So I think once you start getting into like the details, when you really understand details matter, when most people don't understand like why a range card is important, right? They just think, oh, I'm just writing this down, until that is what prepares you prior to actually getting engaged before the enemy comes. Right. So if I go to a location, I'm pulling Overwatch, or I'm doing a base defense plan, and I go exactly, if I'm standing at this location and I say, well, that hill is 300 meters from me, then I can have everything prepped and set up. If enemy comes up, starts shooting at me, I can gauge that enemy first couple of rounds, versus waiting and to decide what's to engage at that distance.
Yeah.
So those details, understanding, in sniper school, they pretty much teach you, it's not necessarily a first round hit, but you're looking at a second round. So you want to get on target as quick as possible. So all those details prior to taking that shot is very important.
Would you say that it made you kind of more aware and observant of, as you're patrolling through areas, to conditions and things like that more than you were before?
Yes. I mean, because you're going to now look at, distance from where you're at. So you're always thinking, as I'm moving, if I have to engage a target, okay, that tree is 200 meters from me. That building's there. This is a tactical angle from here. And you're always like thinking what the next move is going to be if I can get engaged in one of these locations and areas.
It seems like that type of training, even if it was condensed to, a couple of weeks, would be largely beneficial for all special operators, even if they're not going to be snipers, but just to experience that super fine level of detail for that. Because if you get into a gunfight, obviously we're always looking for outs and higher ground and kind of continually evaluating our area, but the sniper mentality of it is at such a more detailed level. It seems like that would just make all of the fighters a more effective fighting force to spend a couple weeks doing that, do you think?
Yeah, I don't see why it would hurt. I think for sure, because any school that you can put as much detail in there, and then obviously when you're shooting, you're engaging and you're moving, like you have to slow your heart rate down to engage the shot. Even then, there's a lot more technical. I didn't realize even at that time when I went on how difficult it was just to set up a camera to get a picture from hundreds of meters away. Like that was probably the most difficult thing for me to do, because they didn't have like the things that connect. So you had to line everything up perfectly, try to get a good shot. That was probably the hardest thing out of sniper course is taking a photo from distance.
That's a trip.
Yeah.
So going back into kind of that experience, I guess the one thing I mentioned it earlier, but when you talked about the Chinook going down, and kind of the difficulty that your team had and kind of the subsequent operations, does that stand out as being kind of the most vivid memory you have of an actual gunfight in Afghanistan?
Yeah. So
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Summer looks different for everyone. For some guys, it's the best season of the year. Travel, adventure, time with the family. For others, it's a nonstop juggle that quietly becomes overwhelming. Kids are out of school, schedule blows up, pressure coming from every direction, and that underneath of it all, this nagging feeling that the sunny days are slipping by and you're not actually enjoying any of them. I've certainly been there. You're surviving the summer instead of living it. And the honest answer most of us don't want to hear is that we need support to actually get there. Therapy isn't about being broken. It's about understanding yourself well enough to set better boundaries, make better decisions, and build a version of summer, a version of your life that actually feels good. BetterHelp has over 30,000 fully licensed therapists and have served more than 6 million people worldwide, with an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 based on over 1.7 million client reviews. A short questionnaire matches you with the right therapist for your specific needs, and if the match isn't right, you can just switch anytime. You don't have to say yes to everything this summer. Find support in therapy. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/micdrop. That's betterhelp.com/micdrop.
that was the second time that I was like, oh, shit, this is real. Like, I think there's different levels of combat when you're in. The first time was whenever I was initially troops in contact. I think everybody remembers that one.
Yeah.
And then there, you still think like we own the night, and that like nobody is gonna, like, you never think a bird's gonna get shot down, like.
Right.
And then whenever it did, and it was like a couple 100 meters from our location. So and up to that point, like we were taking it to the enemy, and we had everything pretty much advanced, So once we showed up, we cleared through the objective, and we took some troops in contact. And at that point, we had a guy, was an 82nd guy who got shot, and he got shot in the leg. But he actually stayed there in Kajaki Sofla at that time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so like he's like, nah, I'm good. I'm gonna stay there. So it was a through and through. The medics control the bleeding, so they're like, hey, we kept him there the rest of the time. So,
Damn.
so he was ready to get after it.
Savage.
And then when nightfall hit, that's whenever the 82nd came in to get put on the other side of the Helmand River. And once we didn't know if they actually were put down on the other side of the Helmand River or not. And then we just seen the explosion of.
So you saw the helicopter?
So we saw the helicopter,
wow.
like engulfed in flames.
Damn.
So and it was a huge fireball.
What did you guys do the second that happened?
So that was like the reality of like I'll never forget like that the Chinook like blowing up like that. At first, I didn't even know like what it was. You had that whole sense of like, this isn't real.
Wow.
And then when the Chinook got, blew up, then at that point, we didn't know if those guys had been dropped off at the other side of the Helmand River or how many people were actually in that aircraft. So from that point, we left. Right from there, we were like, I would say about 150, 200 meters, a couple hundred meters from that location. And we just started going to the crash site. So I remember going to the crash site, like we're going over some poppy fields. I actually remember there was a bag that fell out of one of our gun trucks, and I'm like, hey, listen, we lost a bag. It wasn't time to go back and recover it. We were heading straight to the crash site.
What was in the bag?
It was one of the guys' blowout bags.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it was one of the guys' blowout bags, and then as we were heading to the objective, the 82nd was heading there also. They rolled the vehicle, and then they got hit. And then we moved to the crash site, dismounted the GMVs. As we were moving through the crash site, the team ended up engaging some enemy personnel, and then from there I dismounted and then went to the crash site, and then helped secure the crash site. And then I remember like calling up and trying to figure out exactly like how many like bodies were recovering from that crash
How
site.
many were there?
So they ended up letting guys out on the one side of the bridge or other side of the Helmand River. So all of the air assault, the crew there, the dismounted infantry was out of the crash site. And then I want to say we pulled like five or six bodies out of that crash site.
Including your guy?
No, it was none of our guys
Okay.
were.
Was
It was none of our guys.
Or no?
What's that?
Was the sister platoon, or no, it was just the 82nd?
It was just the 82nd that was in
Okay.
there. We were all dismounted at that point.
I got you.
And then, like, we sat there. We were pulling personnel from the crash site, and then as we were pulling them out, we were like waiting on hire to find out how many, guys that were there. So I was trying to recover as much of the personnel as possible. It was tough.
What's going through your mind in that moment?
One of the things, like, it's hard to not think about the family members there. And I'm not saying that I don't think of guys that are on the ground's family members and guys that don't, but there's certain positions in the military where you're thinking like that guy's pretty safe. You know what I mean? Like a lot of these guys are just
safe.
Or more safe, you know? And, when you realize, it can happen to any of us, any of the guys there, and, I look at it as if my wife gets a phone call that I was KIA, it's something that she can somewhat expect.
Yeah.
Not saying it's any different, but like to me, that's what kind of I was like thinking of, like their family's going to get phone calls like here within the next 24 hours, and as we're pulling these personnel out of the crash site, and a lot of the conditions their condition was not good.
But by that, do you mean what exactly?
Some of them were burnt very badly. You know what I mean? Some of them were, they're pretty rough,
with that being engulfed in flames, how are you able to even do that?
So when the crash site landed, like those guys were scattered. Those guys were scattered quite a little bit over that area.
Like it blew up and just kind of threw everything.
Yeah, kind of threw everybody everybody out. So there was guys that were close to the crash site, and then there was guys that like we had to like kind of maneuver around to try to find.
And while you're doing the recovery operation, you guys took fire during that time also?
Yeah, the our CCT was like, so I think it was at that trip he was a JTAC. So, but he was calling in fire like the whole time. He Winchestered a bird and had to put another one on station. So,
do you have any idea how many enemy fighters there were trying to attack the position?
Man, I have no clue. I really don't know how many. I have a clue how many it was at that time. Like I said, I was pretty much a new guy, but I mean, they were flooding us like all night long.
Yeah.
Because normally we control the night. But because a bird was shot down, these guys want to get their jihad on.
Like moth to a flame.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of moth to a flame kind of thing.
Wow. Do you remember about how long you were at the crash site?
We were there all night long.
Wow.
Yeah, we were all there all night long till the next morning. And then on that trip was pretty frustrating because this was not tactically sound. So leadership was like, you're going to leave the crash site to go back to get a wrecker to come back to secure the crash site, right? And then so instead of staying on the crash site and doing overwatch, we left the crash site, our ODA, so left no overwatch on it, to go back so we could secure a convoy that had like a whole bunch of other like gun trucks there to bring a wrecker to our location. So it was like, this was a problem back at that time. It was like SF 50 cals worked better than the British 50 cals, or like, so it was 3 gun trucks going back to get, 20 some different other up armored vehicles that had the same capabilities that we did.
Wow.
But they didn't want to leave the wire without SF support.
Yeah.
Which is frustrating because now you're going back to the crash site, which could be booby trapped now because you left it all night long, or they can go there and take pictures. You know what I mean? It was just one of those things at that time was pretty frustrating. It was like, I feel like soft, like at that time, took up a lot of brunt of, at least in our AO.
What year was that?
What's that?
What year was that?
That was in 2008. Yeah, 2008. So that happened around June, July timeframe.
Yeah. Was the expectation or goal of, I guess, the U.S. military in that area to recover the aircraft also?
Yeah, so we went back to recover the aircraft. So they got it.
The whole thing? And
I mean, as much as you possibly could.
Yeah.
You know, we sat there. I was kind of surprised. I was impressed. They got the big portion of that hull on that record there.
And so you went back.
Yeah, we went back.
Was there more troops in contact at that point?
No, we got very, very lucky because that was the biggest thing out of the whole time where
Summer changes everything about how I get dressed. I don't want to think about it. I just want to reach for something that's comfortable, breathable, and doesn't look sloppy. That balance is harder to find than it should be. Quince has been solving that problem for me. They sent me some pieces to try and give my honest take, and I'll say that their European linen shirt has been in the constant rotation. If you've never worn quality linen in the summer, got to tell you, you're missing out. It's lightweight, breathable, feels like nothing, but it looks sharp enough to where you can wear it anywhere. Their linen pants hit the same way. They're relaxed, comfortable, still put together. And the Pima cotton tees, softer than anything I expected at that price point. Now here's what makes Quince worth talking about. They work directly with ethical factories and cut out all of the middlemen. There's no brand markup, no inflated price tags. You're just paying for the actual quality. European linen shirts and pants starting at just $34. And everything is priced 50 to 80% less than comparable brands. I use this, and you should too. They've also got lightweight cotton sweaters that are perfect for those cooler summer nights when you need just one more layer. They're versatile, well-made, and built to last. Elevate your summer wardrobe. Go to quince.com/micdrop for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada as well. That's QUINCE.com/micdrop for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/micdrop.
because we went back down 611, and normally 611 is like you get ambushed there quite a lot, and we were very, very, very lucky that we didn't get hit on the way back to that to the crash site, and then we got there. But I will tell you, if it wasn't for the JTAC, like Winchestering all night long, like we probably would have got tore up.
Yeah. Even though it's loss of life is both tragic and life changing when you're in it that way, when you're that close to it. Even though it wasn't your team specifically, was the aftermath of that for you and your team difficult to process through?
So I would like to say there was so much death and destruction during those two trips. I think a lot of guys put a mask on and just dealt with it however they had to deal with it. It wasn't really we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So I don't know. I really can't tell if guys were just putting up a good face.
So it wasn't something you guys sat down and went through. You just kept going, didn't talk about it.
Yeah, I kept going, really didn't talk about it.
I mean, it's a pretty common theme with, really the entire military and combat operations is, which, to be fair, like it kind of has to be that way. You still have a job to do, and if you're distracted and like you don't have time to take time that you might need, and the other thing that I think a lot of us never even think to realize, because it doesn't seem like the opponents really view death the same way, obviously you're not there when it happens, but I'd be curious to know kind of what their perspective is when they try to attack an American unit and they lose hundreds of people in a short window of time while you guys are there. Is that if it impacts them the same way? Was that ever a thought that you had?
Not really. I didn't think about that at that time, just because I don't know. This is going to sound pretty harsh, but the guys that served in like Afghanistan, that's been like that, been after it. They were the enemy, and not that you try to respect their capabilities and what they could and couldn't do at times, but I really didn't put myself in their shoes like that. It wasn't until like I got older and I kind of started thinking about that a little bit.
Right.
But at that time, I really didn't like.
Yeah, which is common and
Yeah.
I think and normal. You know, it's one of those things where I always, whether you want to look at it like the Sun Tzu, you know your enemy kind of thing.
Yeah.
It always seemed like the value on life was just so much different, you know, for them in that way.
Yes, I mean there's certain things that happened over there that you've seen that was culturally like sound at times, where you were like, you felt like they didn't value exactly what you're saying, life the same way that you did, right? Like, so culturally, it's more egregious for a family to lose a man than it is to lose a wife or child, because the man supports the family. So at the end of the day, it's a lot more like they can't. A man's value to them is worth more than their child, a kid, you know, or their wife, you know.
That's such a crazy perspective.
It is very
to
crazy.
Us, I mean, to them, obviously, it's normal. But
Now for them, I mean, it's kind of a survival
Yeah.
thing. If you don't have somebody there, the man's there to protect or provide for them, then I guess that makes sense. But it just doesn't make sense to us here culturally, you know, Western.
Along those same lines, or going back to kind of the shoving it down, you know, one of the more common experiences I think for combat veterans is doing that is not really even thinking about the experiences that you have until well afterwards. And you know, the problem with that obviously is that it tends to manifest, you know, grief turns into anger, you know, and temper and violence and drinking. And you know, I really want to get into, you know, once you decided to get out, kind of the struggle, the transition, and it being such a common path for so many of us that that when you've got, you know, years of suppression of emotion and trauma and grief and hardship and what have you, and you never really even think about it, let alone, if you want to use the word process, I mean, whatever. But what was your experience with that?
So I felt like I did a good job of, like, I don't know, probably staying pretty cold, I think, you know. Like those first trips, like we got after we killed a lot of people. A lot of guys from different ODAs were killed in the company. And then we lost Mitch. And then, so it was a constant, death was just constant, like something that you dealt with. So for me, I just kind of blocked it all out, you know, so it was difficult for me to deal with grief. In 2020, I was a company sergeant major. I just took over as a company sergeant major, and the company that I took over for had just got back from Afghanistan, and they lost 3 guys during that trip. I wasn't there with them. They were coming back. They were on leave. I remember it. I was just getting ready to go into work. I just got done doing PT, and then I get a phone call that my son was in a motorcycle accident. And all I heard from them telling me was, he's like, hey, he broke his arms and his legs, right? And so I asked, you know, hey, what hospital he's going to. So I started going to the hospital. And like on the way there, I'm like thinking, like, how do I call and talk to my wife about this? Like, I knew something was wrong, you know? And we get to the hospital, and this was like right when COVID was kind of like just kind of really starting, you know? The mask thing was starting to become a deal. Like they had closed down everything that was like, all the hospitals were like closed down. The only thing that was open.
Fort Bragg area?
Yeah. This was in Florida.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So when we got to the hospital, there was a law enforcement officer and like an administrative like nurse out there, and they were like, "Hey, you can't come inside." You know, my wife had just got to there, and then I remember me and the officer like getting into like a verbal, you know, altercation. And then luckily, a lady came out from the hospital and was like, "Hey, listen, y'all can come inside." So we go inside the hospital, and the lady's like, just told us like, "Hey, your son didn't make it." So like I just hit the floor, you know, and I was like I just felt like every ounce of strength was just kind of just pulled away from me, you know. And
Bubs Naturals has been supporting this show for a long time, and I've been a fan of their collagen for years. I use it every single day. But I have to tell you, genuinely fired up about what they just launched, and that's their creatine monohydrate. Now look, creatine isn't new. Most of you know what it does. It's more energy, faster recovery, lean muscle, better focus under stress and fatigue. It's one of the most researched supplements on the planet. It's recognized by the International Society of Sports Nutrition. The problem is most creatine on the market is garbage. A recent study found that roughly 50% of creatine products exceeded impurity limits, and most of it is manufactured in China with zero accountability. Bubs sources exclusively from Creapure. It's made in Germany under strict quality controls. It is the purest creatine monohydrate available. There's no fillers, there's no hype. It's 100% NSF 4-Sport certified. You know exactly what you're putting in your body. Here's what makes Bubs different from any other supplement company out there. The brand is a tribute to former Navy SEAL and good friend of mine, Glenn Bub Doherty, who laid down his life saving Americans in Benghazi. Glenn stood for self-improvement and always helping others. That's the DNA of this entire brand. Bubs donates 10% of all profits to charity in his honor. That's a company worth supporting. Live better longer with Bubs Naturals. For a limited time, get 20% off your entire order with code MICDROP at bubsnaturals.com. That's BUBSnaturals.com, code MICDROP for 20% off.
I went back to see him there, and it obviously was the hardest thing. Like you have to, like you don't think you deal with death all the time. You're dealing with grief, and you never think that you're ever going to have to worry about losing a child, you know. And that's what really changed my perspective. And like that's what I really started kind of having a very, very, very hard time, like dealing with grief and
Like that opened the floodgate.
That opened the floodgate for me.
Man, I'm really sorry to hear that.
Changed my perspective on a lot of stuff.
Yeah. How old was your son?
He was, at that point, he was born in 97. I want to say it was like 24 at that time.
Man, do you know what happened?
Yeah, so he was in a motorcycle accident, and then like I never even. So I remember talking to the law enforcement officers from the wreck, and I never even went to get the report.
Yeah.
I didn't even want to know. You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to know the details. I didn't want to know like anything more like about it. You know, I know it was at an intersection not too far from our house. It looked like I don't know where the sun was at, if he didn't see the color of the light or whatever, and it just hit another vehicle. Yeah. Another vehicle collided with him.
Had he been riding a while?
So he used to ride with me whenever he was younger.
So you guys rode together?
Yeah, so we rode together. We rode together whenever he was younger, and then so he'd been riding for a little bit, dirt bikes and motorcycles. So
did that? Do you still ride? Did that change your?
So I rode a little bit, but I don't really hardly ride at all.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. I mean, I have kids, and that thought is crippling. Just imagining it. You know, I can't even imagine. I'm heartbroken for you. So with that opening the floodgate, and now it kind of all comes out, I guess, with the grief and loss that you've experienced. What were those next few months and years?
So we went to work, we had a hard time finding a place to even do a funeral
Because of COVID.
So we went to probably a half a dozen plus like funeral homes, and they were like, they didn't want nothing to do with it. And then and finally I sat down and I talked to one funeral home, and we're like, hey, listen, like if you want, like I'll have the whole company out here doing whatever procedures and precautions that you need, you know. My wife wants to have a memorial. We want to allow his friends and family to go there to pay their last respects, and we found a funeral home that would allow it.
Wow.
And then we went back to work probably way sooner than what we should have. Probably within maybe a week or so afterwards.
Yeah.
Nobody was forcing us. Everybody was was supportive. But the problem with, at least for me, probably even my wife, is like, when you don't know how to deal with grief and you have other kids, like you can't just lay in your bed forever. You know what I mean? You're like, I didn't know, like it was kind of one of those things for me as a man. It's like, how do I set an example for moving forward, but still deal with what happened? And I had no clue how to do that, you know? So I just went back to work and kind of surrounded myself with that to try to keep myself from blowing, you know what I mean? Like all these things that I put off for years that just destroy me, you know?
Did that work, or was there a moment where
So it worked for a period of time because I was in a leadership position and there's other guys dependent on me. So like, because other guys depended on me, I was pretty much just treading water, I would say, you know? But even at that point, like I got away from the PT, you know, I was probably, after I retired or whatever, I was probably about 50 pounds overweight. Like I just got, you know what I mean? I couldn't find the drive, you know what I mean, to just do any of that stuff, you know? Wow. The drinking, you know, we say I drank to cope, but I didn't drink to where I was like passing, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? I didn't.
Just numbing it?
Just kind of numbing it. I think that that's probably pretty normal. You know, drink to medicate, I would say probably.
Yeah. Did you find yourself relying on any other substances, or was it just alcohol?
No, at that point I was pretty lucky. I really didn't have to, you know, I didn't know hard narcotics or anything there. Even like I didn't have access to like pain medicine or anything like that either. So I was lucky that it was just probably just mainly just drinking.
Yeah. Did that just continue, or was there an even more rock bottom point?
So once I was, the rock bottom, I would say, is like after I got out of the, you know, once the issue, you know, Afghanistan pulled out, you know, and I said I was retiring. At that point, then I started really kind of hitting rock bottom. You know, that's where I was overweight. I wasn't doing PT anymore. Marriage was pretty much just barely hanging on by a thread, you know, and that's the hardest thing people don't talk about when you're dealing with grief. It can separate you because you're trying to support each other. I'm trying to support her. Like, who's grieving? It's not a fight to who's grieving more, you know?
Yeah.
So it's hard to support someone else when they're grieving, when you're just as grieving as bad and you're trying to fix your own thing.
Like you need somebody too.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's tough. And I think that's why a lot of marriages have a hard time when they, you know, go through something terrible like that, you know, lose a child, is because they both need support, and if they can't do it to each other, you know? So yeah, so that really had issues there.
Were the issues strictly around both of you kind of not feeling supported enough by the other, or was there more to it than that?
I think there's part of it is like you spend this whole time, you don't get anything. You really don't take care of yourself when you're active duty and you're deploying that much. You know, you're not dealing with all these other things. You know, and then you retire, and now you're like, I got all these issues that I have I remember when I originally retired, went to the VA, and man, they had me on that time. I mean, I was on probably a dozen different medications. It's like fix this, and
What type of medications?
man, was on, it was like SSRI. They had me on Ambien. They had me on Adderall. They had me on propanolol. They had me on what was the other one? Wellbutrin. Like you know what I mean? I was like on like all kinds of medications.
So most of it was either behavioral or sleep or
Yeah,
awake.
behavioral, sleep, like that kind of stuff there too. And then I eventually was like, hey, I quit taking that stuff just to kind of get on a baseline to kind of rebuild.
Yeah.
So
How did you manage to repair things with your wife to where it kind of came out of that hole?
So I remember, first what I started doing, I started going back to the gym. Started eating healthy again, and I was just trying to get my body to feel good so I could try to think, okay, well, if my body starts feeling good, then my mind will start feeling good, and I can start dealing with this stuff. Came off all the medications, I still did, I did human HRT or TRT, right? So I was taking that, and then I started going to a counselor, and then I was reading Stoicism, and I was like trying to read. I was reading books on how to try to be a better husband, be a better father, and try to be present, as a husband and a father. And I remember I was upstairs. Me and my wife were arguing, and she said the D word, which we don't, say like in our marriage. I want a divorce, and so from there, we started going to marriage counseling, and because everything that I was doing, I was trying to make myself better so I could be a better husband and a better father, and it just wasn't enough. Like I was still angry, I was still upset. So I'm like, hey, listen, you need to start going to a counselor yourself. So she started seeing a counselor or a therapist. We started going to marriage counseling together, and then I'm like, man, let's start going to church. My wife was not for it at first.
Did you grow up with that as an influence?
Not so. I had a little bit. So my grandmother went to church, right? So I had a little bit at that point. Whenever I was baptized Catholic, my grandfather, on my mother's side, he was raised in a orphanage where there was Catholic. He was not really for the church. He had a whole different perspective. But I was baptized Catholic before I went to Iraq originally. But I was like I did it to almost like check the box. I wasn't really, I wouldn't say I was a Christian. I was I'm a Christian, but I wasn't trying to follow
Not
Jesus.
in practice, really.
I wasn't actively trying to follow Jesus. I wasn't actively trying to live it, I guess. But at this point, I'm at a place where I'm just like, man, I'll try. I'm trying to anything, So I started going to church, and then I started going to a men's small group, and then I started reading scripture. And then from there, I started studying other religions, and then like church history, and that's like the only thing from there I feel like this is helped me tremendously.
Yeah.
Helped me tremendously.
I mean, it's both fascinating and amazing to hear. Did you have a Holy Spirit moment of kind of almost enlightenment as you're going through this process, or was it more gradual?
So I know guys that say that. I don't remember. I remember like praying like, hey, if you can like help me with this, like I'm all in.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, when I originally started like going to church and trying to read scripture, it was probably pretty selfish reasons. It wasn't like it was more of a my life is a mess, it's not where I want it to be. I've tried all these other things, that I've done in the past, and it's still not fixing the anger, the bitterness, the hate, like everything that has been like embodied in me that somewhat made me successful as a Green Beret, but it's just not making me successful in my personal, in my personal life,
Yeah.
So, so it was a long, it's been a long walk, and I've been like learning things like kind of as I've gone.
And is that I guess transferred over to your wife as well? Is she?
Yeah. So, so my son started going with me right away, and then my oldest daughter, who wasn't going to church, she was already somewhat interested in going to church because she had some friends she had at work that was going, so she started going to church with us also. And then my wife kind of held out for a while, and then she started going with us, and now she's getting ready to start in a small group also.
Yeah, that's
so, but she's got a lot of questions.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's very difficult to bridge that gap sometimes if you haven't lived it, or if you're dealing with grief and understanding. Most people can't say, well, why does God let bad things happen?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a very difficult question for a lot of people.
I think it's the most common one and the most difficult to really rationalize, because it doesn't seem rational, especially when you're emotional about something, right? When emotion runs high, logic and reason tend to run pretty low. And so did you find for you that the plan aspect of religion finally kind of solidified to where it did make sense and you made peace with the loss?
So, when I first started trying to understand faith and try to go to church in small groups and read scripture, I'll tell you the truth. First, I try to look at it like if I apply the same discipline that I did as a Green Beret and I apply it towards following scripture and following Jesus, then I'll have a great outcome. And I failed miserably.
How so?
Because when you sinned your whole life and then all of a sudden you're just going to stop sinning by you're just checking some blocks, it just doesn't work.
Well, I mean, I don't think.
You know what I mean? Yeah. At least it didn't work for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, nobody is sin free though.
No, exactly. But if you're trying to like specifically try to like, it's hard.
Right.
It's very difficult, right? You're going from, okay, well, I need to curb my anger. I need to curb the lust that I have, the anger that I have in my heart, the hate that I have, right? So first you got to break habits that you're doing, and then when I originally just tried to like, okay, if I do this and apply the discipline, I didn't do as well. When I started reading scripture and just started trying to build a relationship with Jesus Christ, then I started realizing that I didn't have any need or use for the sin anymore. Do you know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, but it doesn't mean that like, I think there's a false pretense that if it's not that you're not going to have sin, right? But if you're trying to build a relationship and then at the same token, you're also following scripture, you know what I mean? Then it leads you away from it.
Right. Did you find that strengthened your marriage in going through that path together?
Yeah, I think so. Well, actually, I don't think so. I know so. I mean, there was a time as I was trying to like walk like with God. I will tell you, my wife, was like, "Hey, you're changing," and
was she reluctant to that at first?
Well, so that's what the thing about it, because anytime somebody tells you you're changing, you know what I mean? Sometimes it can be like, well, what do you mean? Obviously, you know what I mean? It can be very you can get defensive on it, And I was, I just asked her the question. I'm like, well, do you want me to go back to the old me, or do you want me to? And she's like, no, So obviously there's some change, but at the same token is if we haven't lived a godly life or even tried, and then now you're trying to, that's a big change in a relationship, in a marriage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
So,
did you see big changes in her?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of changes in her, So obviously she's still walking her walk, and I think she still struggles with a lot, you know what I mean? Really understanding it and, and I think you're going to, unless you actually get in scripture and actually read it and try to apply it.
Yeah.
Because if not, You're just going from one religion or one church to the next that has different theology from the next, and it's difficult.
Did you find kind of reconciling God's plan throughout your journey?
So this is what, now obviously I'm not a theologian and I don't claim to be right or wrong, but I read scripture, and when you look at, that's one thing people have an issue with, where there's different thought processes on God's plan, right? But God gives us free will. That's what I believe. God gives us free will, and we're allowed to move across the board in life with our own decisions that we make, and those decisions have consequences. So in order to have free will, God has to allow you to do bad things. And if the bad thing that you do interflects with my life and it affects me negatively, then I can't just say, oh, why did this bad thing happen? You know what I mean? So that's why I look at the free will. Now, does God, if a God can make the earth and make the stars and make you and me, can he not stop it? Yes. Why he does or why he doesn't, that's not for me to understand or to know. For me, that makes sense to me. So,
can I give you my take on it?
Yeah.
And I say that because it's easily the biggest thing that I have struggled with. I grew up pretty staunch Lutheran, going to church a lot as a child. Even the first couple of years in the military, I did also. I found a really, really great church in San Diego, and spent a couple of years going pretty consistently. And then went on my first deployment. That's when everything changed for me. A lot of those same types of questions is, why is there so much pain and suffering, all over the planet? If you created this, why would you allow human beings to be doing the god-awful things that they do to one another? It doesn't make any sense to me. Then I became a father, and I think it made even less sense, because I know, having kids, if we're all made in God's image, we're all his children. Well, I know that if, one of my kids is getting ready to hit the other one with a hammer, I'm going to step in and not allow that to happen. That's more of a microcosm, I think, environmentally, than what we can't even conceive or grasp or wrap our mind around in terms of a universal heaven and earth kind of macrocosm. But the kind of ideology or perspective that really completely shifted my mentality was, because the free will question gets asked a lot, like, why would you allow humans to just do whatever they want when they're going to do some horrible things? The thing that shifted my perspective is, you can make somebody, or if you have the ability to make somebody love you, respect you, like you, want to be around you, then what does it actually mean when they do? Nothing. Right? If you can make your kids love you to death and think you can do no wrong and respect you as much as you can be respected and like you and want to be with you, think you're the best father in the world, if you can make them do that, then does them thinking that and feeling that actually mean anything or have any value? It doesn't. You could use the same thing in a relationship. If you could make your spouse, love you with every ounce of their being, no matter what you did or what have you, then when they say, I love you and I want to spend time with you, what does that mean? Well, it doesn't mean anything. And I think that that's really the biggest crux of all of that, is that, free will is saying, I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to do it. Maybe I even throw some enormous hurdles your way to remind you that you can choose the right path. You don't have to. But to me, that actually makes sense, is that it's not that he's designing bad things to happen or necessarily allowing him. He's just giving human beings the ability to make their own choices, because he only wants to spend, eternity with the ones who make the right choice and actually want to be with him. He's not making them to be with him. And that always made sense to me.
Yeah. If you're not allowed to have a choice, then are you really living?
No, I don't think so. Then you're a robot, So,
yeah, exactly. So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. You mentioned that kind of everything that could go wrong in a marriage has gone on between you guys. Has that been a constant struggle? Do you find yourself in a position now where like things are repaired, and having been through all of those things, whatever those things are still an issue, or you feel like you're in a good place?
So no, I think when me and my wife, we originally got married, like we were young, right? And then we both came from, pretty troubled backgrounds, and at that point, we had kids young, and we were just trying to, like, for us, success was taking our kids out of the neighborhood they were at, of poverty, and then giving them enough, wealth, and hey, look at us, we have a career. My wife's a nurse practitioner, right? So like, hey, we have a career now. This is an example that we want you to kind of live, and kind of get them out of kind of what we grew up in, so that was kind of what success was for us, Now everything that we've been through has made us stronger, and but I will tell you, and I'm going to be 100% honest here, I don't think that you can lose a child and then still not struggle, and we'll struggle with them things probably for the rest of our marriage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to be 100% honest, because I'm not trying to have this idea that like marriage is work. You know what I mean? Now I will tell you that my wife has been so supportive, from the get-go. Like, she's very resilient. She's had my back though, all throughout my military career. She's put up with me, good, bad, and indifferent. And I think we have a mindset that we're like, we're going to make it work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And push through it, and we've came a long way from that. And the biggest thing for us right now is really communicating, learning how to communicate again. And then, trying to, I think, really understand each other, what each person's needs are.
Yeah. At this point, having been a few years now, the loss of a child, and again, I can't even begin to wrap my mind around it, having not experienced it, but having children, what are the things that take place where that still affects it to kind of the level you're talking about?
Well, I mean, you can't go through a holiday anymore without thinking like it being a huge, know what I mean?
It's a double-edged sword.
Factor, huge factor. The last time my wife seen him was on Mother's Day, right? So like every Mother's Day comes through, and it's, she's got to put on this face, she still remembers that day. There's nothing that comes by that there's still not some kind of memory, which is not, you want to remember, but there's still that grief because they're not here,
right.
So
it's constant reminders throughout.
It's constant reminders, and then I'd say the hardest thing, truthfully, is when you're dealing with grief like that. It's like, am I supposed to feel happy again? You feel bad for feeling, oh, I'm having a good time, right? You feel bad for trying to do other, you know what I mean? It's like,
I do. I mean, again, I don't want to speak out of turn or come off the wrong way. I do wonder if maybe the same philosophy towards losing brothers in arms in combat. I mean, the way I always looked at it was that if it were me, if I was the one who, didn't come home, and I had this ability to observe my teammates that were sulking and feeling bad and not happy on my behalf, like I wouldn't be happy about that.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I can think of is that, I would imagine that he would want you guys to move on. Again, I don't want to.
No, I 100% agree, because that's what I agree with as far as like guys that I've served with. I feel 100% the same way. But I think your mindset is, I expect, we go on deployments. Before I left to go on deployment, one thing we always did, I always took family photos and we went on some kind of vacation, because I knew there was a chance that I wasn't going to come back.
Yeah.
Right. And I think everybody expects that or knows that's what you sign up for. It's very well possible, right? You never think your kid.
Yeah, you're not supposed to bury your kids.
You're not supposed to bury your children.
Yeah.
So it's tough, because it doesn't sit the same way, I guess.
Yeah,
If that makes sense.
No, it does for sure. How have the rest of your children dealt with the loss of a sibling? Have they been able to work through it?
So, so I think they've done good. So my oldest daughter was very close to Jacob. They're very close, similar in ages. And then my oldest son, or my second son, had a very hard time because he obviously that was his big brother, and he really looked up to him. Yeah. You know, so you know, obviously there is effects there. I mean, they are doing good. You know, my oldest daughter was married this last year, and then my son just proposed to his his fiance actually right like Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
So
well, that's some positive.
Yeah. So
move forward.
Yeah.
It sounds like the combination of, you know, stifling all of the grief throughout your entire military career, and then that's kind of bookended by the loss of your child. The uncorking of all of that, you hit rock bottom, but then through fitness and faith it's kind of given you a new lot on life and kind of redefined your purpose in a way where now kind of moving forward, you're putting all of these positive steps forward into tactical edge coaching. And
yeah, so
has that been a huge outlet for you?
Yes, it has been a very big and positive outlet, because I think everybody that's the time in the military, or just anybody, like we surround something, our identity, with our purpose, you know. And then what I've really learned is anything that you identify as your purpose that can be taken away from you, you're really not on a good solid foundation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you have to put your purpose and what you identify as needs to be something that can never be taken away from you.
Yeah.
You know, and that doesn't mean that, like, a lot of these things that we say is our purpose should just be goals. You know, me being a Green Beret is not my purpose in life. It should be a goal. I want to be a Green Beret. I want to be a good Green Beret. Those are goals. But I'm not going to be a Green Beret forever.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to be, you know, so people identify with this is who I am. And then when that goes away, they have a problem. They have an issue, you know? Yeah. And even fundamental ones is like, that's why people have a hard time with divorce and their family leaves, right? Like, that doesn't mean that you don't want to be a good husband, right? My goal is to be a good husband. My goal is to be a good father. But the reality is that can be taken away from you just as much as anything else.
Right.
You know, so.
Well, and I think especially with special operations, there's such a mystique woven into that as a career and a profession, and you get used to, you're the Green Beret.
Yeah.
You know, you're the SEAL, you're the Ranger, you know, and especially when you've done it for decades, you know, from a very young man until, you know, a middle-aged man. And I think, you know, when that all of a sudden isn't there, I think for most veterans, you know, not just special operations, but there is that feeling of kind of being in a rowboat with no paddles for a little while and not really knowing, what am I supposed to be doing? Who am I? You know,
yeah.
What is my purpose, you know, now? And that can be really difficult for a lot of folks.
It's very difficult, and you see a lot of problems with it in the veteran space too, right? Because we can be our worst enemy. So you spend all this time fighting for something, right? You're serving the military.
Good at it.
You know, you're fighting for something. You believe in a cause bigger than yourself. Then you get out, that cause isn't there. So now you just be salty about it, something else.
Yeah.
You know, now you're fighting another fight that may not be positive for you. It's more toxic.
Right.
You know, I think that's a lot of the reasons why there's a lot of veteran hate, and that there's a lot of issues there, because we're just looking for another battle to fight.
Yeah, just
when it's
pick
like,
on each other.
Yeah, and now we're just kind of against each other sometimes. So.
Yeah. Was creating Tactical Edge, was that a funneling of your purpose in a way that you understood that's what you were trying to accomplish, or did it kind of more just come to fruition because of it?
So there's a couple things. So we started up a medical practice, a brick and mortar medical practice. Started back in 2022, and that I started off doing the marketing for it, right? And that's kind of almost how I got into like the social media side, like just trying to figure out, okay, hey, we have this brick and mortar business, right? How we have to build the marketing to kind of get people in there. And then it just wasn't something that I had really, I learned a lot, but it wasn't something that I was kind of interested in. So that's how I kind of got into that. And then me and my wife sat down and kind of had a conversation, and we were like, hey, listen, what if I did something to help other people out, and kind of go over some of the same difficult things that I went through, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then helping other people. And that kind of started going into like public speaking and, you know, the coaching and consulting also. So
can you give me the 30-second elevator pitch on Tactical Edge?
Yeah, so pretty much I mainly focus on, like, I believe a big pillar is your fitness level. You know, if your body's right, you start working on your mind. And then, you know, big focus is on leading yourself. You know, I think a lot of people want to be in a leadership position, but don't do the basic things they need to do to make themselves a better person, to lead better for their organization and everything else. So, and then everything that I teach is I have biblical principles for it.
Biblical, yeah.
Yeah, it's everything. So when I first started, I was very like, okay, well, how do I do this and still be, you know, serve God? You know what I mean? And there's certain things where I was like trying to divide it to where I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm just, if I teach something or put something, it's going to be off of.
Yeah. All right. So a couple of current events. Obviously, Venezuela took place not long ago. Maduro was captured. I'm curious, coming from the Army side of the house, what was your first reaction to seeing and hearing about that? And subsequently, the most dangerous, unintended consequence of us doing that, do you think exists?
So when I originally heard it, obviously on social media, everybody's got their own opinion on, you know, whether they agree with it or they don't agree with it. I looked at it as an operational standpoint, is like it's important for especially like active duty military to not have any political bias. Majority of the time, whenever we're conducting operations, we're trying to conduct operations. Like we don't think about like that stuff. And I thought the operation was like flawless. Like that's kind of one of those things that you dream about doing whenever you're anywhere in the military, that have something that high stakes and it runs so smooth and flawless without.
Yeah. Super impressive.
Yeah, very, very impressive. Like super, super impressive.
Did you work with any guys that went on to CAG?
So I had a couple buddies that were in SF that had went over to CAG.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I kind of lost track with them a little bit, never didn't stay like in contact with them.
Did you ever consider going?
So I considered going at one time, and that was when I was pretty salty after one of my trips. It was one of the trips where a lot of guys were getting in trouble in group, and I thought about going over there, but another deployment came up, and I really enjoyed what I was doing, so I kind of stayed the course where I was at. So,
do you think? I guess in your mind, is there a most dangerous unintended consequence to us removing a leader that way? Even though, yes, it's, you know, in terms of comparing him to, you know, a first world country's free and fairly elected president versus a narco state.
So I try to be on a political side. I try to think of things unbiasedly. I try to think of things as like, okay, if I'm an independent or I'm a Republican and I voted for this administration, right? But if another administration did this exact same thing towards someone else, how would I feel about it? I try to stay as unbiased as possible. Legality on that is where I don't know. Like, do we have the legal ability to do that, right? Now, I know whenever like Marco Rubio had his talking points, he was like, hey, this was a narco terrorist, and he was pretty much down on the right side of the law. And I think when Trump talked, you know, he kind of went on the other side. I think they were trying to pull him back in a little bit. Yeah. You know, so
which is rare.
Which is very
that never happens.
I don't think that's difficult. I think it's difficult to do. But you know, I guess that's the gray area kind of when you talk about that, because now at the end of the day, can you do that to another country? You know what I mean? And if another country would have done that, would be upset or whatever. So I guess that's I think that's where people agree or disagree on it.
I mean, I think you could use that argument for anything, though. I mean, Iraq and Afghanistan, was that legal to go in there? Like, we had, the NATO buy off. Okay, well, but our influence in NATO historically is basically if we say this is what we're going to do, they're like, okay, yeah, we buy off on it. So like if you're the one making the laws.
Yes, I guess that's the case. I guess the opposition, or some of the opposition was, do you need Congress's approval? I guess that would be the question.
Yeah, I don't think in that vein. No, I don't think that. The president, all presidents, have acted unilaterally in doing things without Congress's approval.
Yeah, no, I guess that's what the question was there. Was it an act of war or not? And I guess that's the legality. To me, as active duty or somebody that's like, I could care less. It's not my.
Yeah, I mean, I think the tough part is making the distinction between declaring war and an act of war. I mean, to me, an airstrike would be an act of war. I mean, Obama taking out Mohammed. Zawahiri, I think, or I'm screwing their names up. I don't remember his name. He was an American-born head of Al Qaeda.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
I can't remember his name, but took him out with an airstrike. He's an American citizen overseas. Like, is it constitutional? Is it within the parameters of the law? I mean, I think you could make a case or argue that every president has acted unilaterally and done things that isolated would be considered an act of war if another country did it to us.
Yes, 100%. And that's just where we have to, and that's where the difference is on.
Yeah, I think in this case, if he had said, we're going to go do that and send 100,000 troops and set up shop, then that's a totally different story. But I mean, it was essentially a raid, and then, so I think legally, I think he's probably within the confines of the law. I'm curious, though, do you think it was a good idea, though?
Anything that we do, anything like that, time will tell.
Yeah.
Like, so at the end of the day, I mean, you look at the Venezuelans seem like they were very, very happy with that.
Yeah.
Because overall, Venezuelans were happy with that because, their lives were terrible. The economy was tanking. They have all these resources, but they're not getting anything from the resources. Those resources were being paid off to, China, Russia. So like that's a huge issue for them. So is it better for the U.S. with him being gone? I'd probably say yes. Now, who we put up after that and how the time pulls up, what that looks like, hopefully it works for the right reason. I mean, you say the same thing, whenever we helped, get Russia out from Afghanistan. Like at that point, that was the right thing to, we believe that was the right thing to do. It backfired over time, so.
Yeah. I guess that's the question. I mean, do you think it's more destabilizing long term to either leave a head of a narco state intact or remove him and flip the coin as to whether or not it gets worse or we have the ability to influence? And I know, time will tell, but if you're looking at it as a decision point, which one would you lead to if you were the president?
Man, that's a good question. So in that situation there with Venezuela and the resources and the oil there, and with the economy being so bad, there's something else at play there. It wasn't just a narco thing, right? I feel like there's something else there.
There's a ton more going on.
There's a ton more there. There's underlying things that are going on there that we don't know about. And that's why you hope that you elect somebody knowing, or somebody's a leader over you, knowing that they know things that you don't know about, right? And they're making the best decision possible about whatever that is, That's not always the case. You may not always agree with it. But I don't know. I probably would have done the same thing, tactically, but I would at least consult to make sure, hey, legality, do I have the legal ability to do it? And then try to stay on script with the legality of why I was doing something.
In terms of the election process of finding a successor, number one, do you think that we should play a role in that? And number two, do you feel like rushing rushing that in the interest of eliminating the power vacuum and chaos could potentially lead to, having somebody worse get in there if you try to do it too quick. Like, where's that fine?
So that's the problem. You had the same issue in Egypt whenever we try to back, which I totally didn't agree with when we backed the Muslim Brotherhood to overthrow Egypt. Now, Egypt is more, you can't vacation in Egypt. And I mean, Egypt is worse than what it was before. I haven't really kept track of the last few years, but I know once that happened, there was a huge problem. So I think it would be irresponsible of us to do a raid, take this guy out, and then have nothing to do with, you know what I mean? Now we're really just kind of flipping the coin. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see how we cannot have some kind of like
some role
in there somehow,
Do you think we ought to do the same thing in Mexico?
You gotta be, so this is the thing about it. We have to start being careful about just hitting. At some point, this is what I look at it. At some point, we can't just go around and just start taking out
people we don't like
all the time, even if I agree with the reasons why we're taking them out, right? And that's where the hard line is. So this is where I think I vote Republican, but I consider myself an independent. So I don't get this group think about that I can't think outside the box on my own, right? Just because I elected somebody and I voted for somebody doesn't mean I'm going to agree with everything that they do. And that should be the case, It should be the case for everybody, But I think, we get on these talking points and we feel like we have to agree with every single thing. But at the same token is if the Democratic Party was doing this to other allies that I agreed with, but maybe they were further right wing, now I'm going to have a problem with that. So I have to be very, I don't know, does that make sense?
It does. I mean, I think the tough part is the lack of consistency, because if you look at Iraq and Afghanistan, both of those were at least procedurally done in a way that, we were acting in a manner that was signed off on and endorsed and kind of okayed by the rest of the world, at least on the NATO stage, which if you think about geopolitics, I mean, that's really the one governing body that historically we've even pretended to give a shit about what they thought. But if you look at what, especially Iraq, but even Afghanistan, if you were to say, okay, the Taliban was housed and allowed to train, plan, and conduct 9/11, if we're saying that that's even what happened, if you look at it purely from a data standpoint and the destruction that 9/11 caused versus the destruction that the opioid and fentanyl crisis from Mexico has burdened our country with over the last 20 years, it's laughable by comparison. Mm-hmm. If you look at strictly, if your metric is the loss of American life dictating our actions outside the borders of the United States, like Mexico towers over everybody else.
Yeah, if you're looking at like a narco issue,
I mean, even just loss of life, period, irrespective of what the root cause is.
Yeah, so you could make an argument that Mexico is more of a threat than Venezuela ever was.
Even Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah, so then that's where you have to be very careful. This is me personally. You be very careful. Obviously, there's other reasons maybe why you did that hit in Venezuela, but you start looking like a hypocrite whenever, because people can start seeing through some of that stuff, is whenever you say, okay, I'm doing this because of he's a narco-terrorist or whatever. And then, but the most drugs that are coming into the U.S. that's killing more Americans are coming from Mexico, right? So that's where some things just don't match up. So then,
that's what I mean with the consistency thing.
Yeah, the consistency is not there. So then you have somebody that's going to start asking questions or or is not going to agree with it. Well, then if you're saying this is the biggest problem that we have, that's killing Americans, but it's coming from over here, it doesn't add up.
I think the biggest thing with Venezuela is the influence of Cuba, Iran, and China. And the coziness there. I mean, similar to like the Cuban Missile Crisis and why that was even such an escalation was the Russia component. In this case, I think it's more of the China is that as a government, our government didn't want and doesn't want China having such a tight relationship in our hemisphere. I think that's the biggest cause for it.
Yeah, and it makes total sense. And if the legality was, hey, listen, we're going over after him as a narco-terrorist for these reasons, but underlining this is the real reason, like we do that all the time. Other countries do that all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like, how many times have you done KLEs, but you're actually doing something else? You're doing a key leader engagement, or you're doing something else, but there's an underlying reason why you're doing it. But then you have to stay with the script if that's what you're saying that you're doing, you know?
Yeah.
So
Currently, Iran is pretty destabilized, and that population is rising up. If you think that, or I guess if we were to assume that the Iranian government has basically nothing to lose at this point and moving forward, is there an asymmetric move that they as a government could employ that worries you the most?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, when you have a country like Iran that has, supposed to have nuclear powers. I don't know how well that looks, and now they're destabilized. What is that going to make them kind of go back to? I really don't know what. Obviously, you have other, Russia at play here too that can help stabilize or try to influence what's going on over there. So that's a pretty difficult.
Is there one thing that they could do with we've got nothing else to lose? Is it the nuke or potential nuke thing?
I mean, that would be the first thing I could kind of think of.
Yeah.
Like, is it likely? Probably not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this is one thing about history. A lot of things we don't think are likely to happen, and then we're like, oh, it's happened. You know what I mean? So.
Right. Well, kind of in that same vein, that there's when you're talking about Islamic extremism that the United States has fought over the last 25 years, one of the recurring themes is martyrdom being not a weakness but a leverage point that they have. And so, having spent a lot of time in Afghanistan and being face to face with that ideology and mentality, do you have a concept of how you deter that mindset? Like, how do you fight somebody who is happy to die for their cause, and it's not a weakness, it's a leverage point?
That's a hard. It's very hard because you can say you send them to your maker, send them to their maker, and sometimes like
that's what they want. That's
what they want, right? But we've done that for a long time in Afghanistan. And you just somebody else just fills the gap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you can't, when we're over there, like, hey, taking it to the enemy, and there was no end state in Afghanistan just for Afghanistan. Like, how many operations in times I was deployed there, and they didn't say, stacking bodies were the end state, right? And we were there for how long, and really, what did we really accomplish?
Well, yeah, I think that's the question I would ask, is having so much of you and your team's time and blood, sweat, tears, life buried into that country. Do you think it was a mistake? Do you feel like any of it was worth it?
So this is the way I looked at it, is when I was over there fighting there, they weren't fighting in stateside or fighting in the Western country. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I looked at it. So
do you think that they would if we had no presence over there, though?
It's hard telling. You know what I mean? Would they have not? I couldn't tell you. You know what I mean? It's hard saying whether they would or they wouldn't. I mean, obviously they did once. It made us a better fighting force. Was it done in vain? What wars were? You know what I mean? Like, one of those things.
Even the saying that 9/11 was done, completely unprovoked. I think there's two ways to look at it. There's our perspective of saying, like, yeah, it was unprovoked.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's ask their justification, because that matters. I mean, irrespective of whether or not you agree with it, the fact is that when they see our ships, flooding the Gulf and bases in Bahrain and Qatar and all in Uzbekistan and Azerbaijan. I mean, there's air bases and FOBs and shit all over the place prior to 9/11. The biggest thing, at least from everything that I've, I guess, concluded, since 9/11 happened, is that the biggest bitch was in the first Gulf War when Saudi Arabia allowed, they were offered by, bin Laden offered to basically repel Saddam from Kuwait and stage out of Saudi. I mean, essentially offered the same thing that we did. And they said no to him and allowed American troops to set up camp in Saudi Arabia, which is where, Mecca is housed. And that pissed him off to the degree with which he started Al-Qaeda, and now we became an enemy. And so, again, I'm not trying to justify his position or any terrorist mindset, but I do think it's important to understand why are you guys doing the things that you're doing, and how big of a role is our global politics playing a role in that?
Yes, that's 100% right, and people need to understand that. Is you have to look at it. Okay, who's the enemies of my allies, and understand now they're your enemies also.
Yeah.
So, and if you're not thinking about that, and that should play a part on who's your ally and who's not, and why you're doing things.
That's when you get punched in the mouth on 9/11.
Yeah, and because you have no clue why. Well, at the end of the day, exactly what you're saying, whether you agree with it or not, you have to know who your enemies are and why they're pissed off at you, and what their capabilities are and what they're willing to do.
Yeah.
But it's hard to fight an ideology.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, shy of genocide.
Yeah.
I don't know how you defeat it other than trying to figure out, not kowtowing to their ideology and doing whatever they say. On the same token, I think it's valuable, important, and a good decision to at least understand where they're coming from, so that you can better understand how to defeat it.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it is, that's where you'll talk about some of the laws here, and you'll see some of these ideologies creeping into the U.S.
Yeah.
Well,
so there's a whole other side to that I don't think a lot of people think about, is if you think about, from September 12th until as we're sitting here today, if Iraq and Afghanistan hadn't taken place, Syria probably wouldn't have been, the issue that it had, ISIS, etc., Egypt, Libya. If none of those things would have taken place, would we have had the millions of refugees flooding into Europe, flooding into the United States from Afghanistan, from Iraq, from Syria, from Lebanon? No, we wouldn't have. Like that to me, that's the biggest bitch of most of it, is that our involvement in there has created this flooding of refugees to all these Western countries and have completely turned them upside down.
Yeah. Yeah, we just took a problem that was isolated and threw it everywhere.
Well, especially when we're saying we're going to go fight it there so we don't have to fight it here. And now we're fighting it here because we've brought it here.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we've done a worse job of keeping it out of the United States by going there and turning it into such a shithole to where we're bringing in millions of them here. And now look where we're at.
Yeah.
Like, I think we've made it worse.
Yeah. The second, third order effects that we have when we conduct these operations and go to war, it's rough to see that. I mean, I guess if you probably look back, history repeats itself, and how many refugees change the geographics of the world after each war. All the time. Every war that happens, it's maybe some for the positive, some for the negative, and
Yeah.
But
on a lighter note, Greenland.
Yep. Oh yeah, that's another one there too. That's a tough one.
Can you help me understand that one? Do you understand it?
So a little bit. There's been like 3 different times that the U.S. has actually tried to purchase Greenland, from my understanding. So it's not like not something that we could offer to purchase it. But at the same token, saying we're going to take it over is probably not a smart thing to do either. You know what I mean? Like, that's.
Do you think that there's any part of it? Have you read The Art of the Deal?
I haven't read it.
Do you understand the gist of it?
So I understand like his you're talking about for his like Trump's thought process on that there too.
Well, on every negotiation.
On every negotiation, yeah. So like at the end of the day, like just insinuating it to a certain point may be enough to get leverage to bring somebody to the table to talk about, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the way I understand it is, you know, you enter the negotiation with a bordering on ridiculous or full-blown ridiculous ask, so that if that's where the starting point is, where you settle on is what you wanted anyway.
Yeah.
You know, you can debate whether or not that's a smart way to go about it or not. I'm sure there are times, obviously there are times where that has worked in his favor. I don't think this is one of them.
Yeah.
I don't get it, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand the desire to want to purchase or have Greenland as a resource, as a territory, I mean, whatever you want to call it, whether it's through purchasing or, you know, negotiating an agreement with Denmark or whatever. But to say like we're taking it one way or another, I don't understand that mentality.
Yeah, that's, you know, that mentality there. And when you say that, that's to where, if this is why I look at it, if Obama would have said that, I would have lost my mind. So I can't change the way I feel about something just because, you know what I mean? I voted for somebody that I voted in, right? I try to be very, I don't have to agree with everything that somebody I vote for or whatever. So by doing that, I think you're stirring the hornet's nest, especially after we just went to Venezuela. Mm-hmm. Like we just went to Venezuela and took this guy. So that was pretty well like, oh, I can't believe we did that.
Yeah. Right.
And then even insinuating you're taking Greenland, to me, it's almost to a point to where maybe he might, is this something that was actually happen? You know, whether to me, I don't think that's something that would happen, right? I think that's too far gone. People that disagree with them can very well say that. Or even NATO unions or Denmark and Sweden. I mean, they're doing operations over there now.
Yeah.
They sent personnel over there. So
I've got a hypothetical for you.
Yeah. So I'm like, what you got?
Let's say you're still on active duty. You're a command sergeant major at 7th Group. Mm-hmm. And Trump decides we're taking Greenland and you guys are going to be one of the crews that goes over there and does it.
Yeah.
Would you do it without thinking twice?
I would think twice, and I would make an assumption that they would have to have, if you're going to put boots on the ground and take over a territory, that is going to war, right? So then you have to have Congress's.
Let's say he didn't.
If he didn't. So that's the one thing, it's very hard because as a service member, if they say, hey, get your stuff together, you're getting ready to deploy, and it's outside of the U.S., like nobody's telling me, it's signed by the Congress or not. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so you don't even really look into that. You're just doing combat operations. So I really don't know where I would. That'd be a tough one. That'd be very tough.
Yeah.
That'd be very, 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 very tough.
Kind of in the same token, how would you differentiate if it came to that?
Yeah.
Right, where the president, regardless of whether or not he got approval from Congress, which I can't imagine he would, but whatever. Either way, let's say that decision is made.
Yeah.
Could you make a distinction between Russia annexing Crimea and invading Ukraine and us doing the same thing? Or would you consider it the same thing if we decided we're just going to take Greenland? Would you make a distinction between those two?
So I wouldn't think that we're doing anything different than what Russia did if we went that far.
Yeah.
Right. Now, at the same token, there's things that we do, that during the Obama and Biden administrations that I didn't agree with, Do
any of them come to mind?
A lot of it was, the woke policies and, the transgender stuff. And then when Obama was in office, like our rules of engagement was very, very stringent, so you're almost, sent to combat with your hands behind your back, so that was rough. But you still serve, like you're still, you don't get to make these decisions. So it's very important that we stay apolitical, but we still have to, as service members, follow the Constitution. You know what I mean? I think it's very, very important. And there's some gray area there to where, if you're invading another country and they say, hey, get your stuff together, there's a part of it, and being in soft too, you know, you want to get after it. So it's like, so I don't know, man. That's a tough one.
Agreed. Interesting times.
Yeah, very, very, very interesting time. Very interesting time. So,
what haven't I asked you that I should have?
I don't know. What do you think?
If I had something, I'd asked you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I don't know.
Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Nope, I don't think so. So
well, we've been going for a little over 3 hours.
So, perfect. Yeah.
Number one, I want to reiterate how sorry I am that you lost your son in that accident. I just can't imagine, and my heart breaks for you. And if there's anything I can do, I would love to help if that's even possible. But I also want to say again, thank you for coming and sharing your story and taking the time to give your life experience, talk through that type of travesty, and ultimately turning that into your purpose now. And I just want to say I'm proud of all of the things that you've been through and overcome and accomplished and where you're headed now.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And thanks again for coming. Appreciate
Thanks.
it. Yeah.
All right.
To the listener/viewer, I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, you can choke yourself. And until next time, this is Mic Drop.